see. Should be rolling soon. Everything should be rolling. I'm recording here. I'm streaming. I am broadcasting. Let's see. Let's give it a second. There you go. Cool. All right. Looks like we are about to start. So we'll kind of get some stuff started right now. I'm just kind of working on what we're going to be demoing right now. Let me share in the Discord as well. Boom, share screen 1, go live. Cool. And then I guess we'll kind of jump into crits. We'll just kind of look at some of the work. And we'll kind of just check it out and kind of see what we need to kind of move into the next steps. So just a bit of a refresher from last week, or I guess the last session, right? I think we had basically what I was doing, right, which was I took this painting. I think it was about here is kind of where we stopped, right? We were at a decent spot. I kind of showed you what I would do to take this, take part of it to finish, right? And so I just painted the rock. I had the asset sheet, and I started kind of running through it pretty quick, which is cool. Then this is kind of where I left off after like the hour and a half or maybe 2-ish hours that I was kind of working on it. But I have been working on it, periodically throughout the week. And this is kind of where I would probably take something like that, right? Just a lot more refined. Obviously, it's the same general idea. Nothing's really changed that much, but right, it's just better, right? Scale cues, more complex shapes, right? Looking up reference on how certain things are done. Putting on some like final touches and stuff. Obviously, the centipede area is not quite figured out yet, right? This painting is, I'd probably say about 80%. I could probably still do a little bit of refinement here and there, right? But this is good enough to be like, this is the concept that we're running with, right? Because, from, whenever we're doing like concepting in production, right? It's a lot of like, just get here. And then now we know that we're going to commit money into making this thing, right? So, this is kind of where I went. So just kind of like looking back at the steps really quickly. We were, whatever this, shit stain of a drawing is, right? Like this was 10 seconds, right? It really wasn't anything, but it kind of sets up, a lot of the things that I needed. I had an idea, and the point is I don't need, I guess, everybody to be able to see what I'm seeing in this, because no one's ever going to see this, right? I would never show this to my leads. I would never show this to my art director, whoever, because, this is just for me, right? It's just mostly placement, mostly composition and proportions, right? From there, we kind of cleaned up the shapes a little bit. All this was done within the same stream. If you want to go check that out, it's in, I think, episode like 2 or something like that. Or it says episode 1 on the thing, not episode 0. And we kind of got to here, which is cool. I think we got here actually. We kind of took it like, maybe like 10 degrees further, right? Just a little bit more lighting in tone to kind of set up what my image is going to be. And then this is where I kind of left it for about 2 weeks, because we're working on some other ideas, right? The whole point was so we can kind of explore a little bit. And then now, right, from there, we got to this stage, just like I was saying a second ago, and here we are now, right? Very, hopefully a very easy to understand process. But the whole point about this, right, is that we're just trying to sell an idea. A lot of this would happen all in the same week, right? Whenever I'm working, actually, I'd probably do like 3 or 4 of these and submit it by the end of the week. To my art director or my lead, right? And then from here we go into breaking down like, oh, we really like the way this looks, or this kind of encapsulates what we're talking about, right? Or whatever the project needs, right? And then I spend a good amount of time actually flushing out the design, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a second after we get through some of the crits and stuff like that. But yeah, hopefully this kind of looks pretty interesting. I'm excited about it. There's some cool things that I want to do to it as well. Like I said, this is about like 80% of like what what a final concept or a final like image, like a VizDev piece that I would actually turn in. Cause there's still some design things, there's still some set dressing and stuff I want to do. And, there's a vehicle that I want to kind of, input into here, like the in the game, you're in this like weird like half circle. It's like a Pokeball type of shape, and you're like driving through different terrains and stuff. And I kind of want to design that as well. So we'll have that included in a design pass somewhere down the line. But yeah, so hopefully up to this point you understand why we do this, right? Because oftentimes, and the reason I like showing this, and I really break it down in a couple different weeks, is because a lot of my students, or I guess students that haven't taken my class, that are currently taking my class, right? They don't know how to start a project, right? Because it's always like, oh, let me design the one thing, let me design the rock, let me design, whatever. And you spend hours, weeks, months designing like a singular object, and then you put into a scene, but that's usually too slow, right? And for production, they kind of need proof really early. They're like, okay, cool, this is the direction, cool. It's not going to really change past like 10, 20 degrees past this, right? Because this is the thing that they're paying for. They're like, cool, this is good, let's kind of move forward, right? And just kind of showing that different production phase and why it's efficient too. Like it might seem a little bit slow, but in reality, 3 or 4 of these would be done in about, a couple days. And this, I think from that previous week of where I was, this step right here, into this step was probably just about a day's worth of work, like 8-hour day, right? Just a pretty normal, casual, kind of, just painting day essentially, right? And that's what I would normally do at work. So I have, 2 days to kind of come up with all my thumbnails, and then another 3 days, right, to kind of finish painting all of those. I'd probably come up with 3 or 4 that look pretty cool, and then we can kind of pick from there, right? So. But cool. Before we do that, though, right? Let's get into some of the crits, right? Some of you submitted some work, so let me grab that real quick, and then we'll kind of look at it. So, with that in mind, Alex is up. I don't know if Alex is here. He's not in the Discord, so I'm just gonna assume you're gonna watch this a little bit later. But, and just as a heads up for everybody, this week it is gonna be a little lighter on the crit, right? Where I guess less about figuring out the story, right? We kind of already talked about that a couple different times. Hopefully you understand the general idea of what we're going for, and then from here we go into just moving on, essentially, like picking the thing and kind of going for it, right? So you had a couple ideas here. You had some write-ups that I did read. I read a little earlier, right before the session started, which is good. I like where things are going. Looking at these newer thumbs, right? I like what's happening. I like the angles. What I will say though is I would probably push the tone just a bit further, right? Because right now I think it's cool that there's a ship, like on the left image specifically, right? There's like a ship, which is cool. I think everything looks good there. We'll design that. We'll make it look cool in a second, but like really kind of setting up that that idea of what's happening. You know what I mean? Like really pushing, the lighting, the tone, whatever. I don't know exactly what lighting you're going for, but like if we're inside of this thing, it looks like we're kind of hiding, like these people over there. So maybe there's like we're inside of a tent, kind of looking out, so you have a little more of that kind of glow, and maybe this ship has a little more, I guess, like dominance to it, right? It's like I don't know, like we're looking at something. So what are we supposed to feel about that, right? And then after that, I would probably maybe either tone down this ship or maybe move it to the left, like this one a little bit closer to us, right? Because the space that it's occupying kind of occupies the same space that or same amount of space that main one does, but it's kind of like now we're fighting for attention essentially. So I'd probably move this to like here, that way it like ends, like this edge ends right there, and then maybe give this a little more room, maybe rotate it a little bit further so we get a little bit better of a 3/4 view. And then we can kind of proceed with that story, right? Same with here. The pieces that you put in there look really good. I think I like he's hanging on the cargo net. He sees this thing in the back, which is dope. But really set up that mood. Give us like a time of day. Give us a color palette, right? Really reference movies and just take that palette and convert it to yours, right? Convert it into your painting. And just to kind of set up that story, right? Is this hopeful or is this like a dire moment, right? Because when we're looking at this, I want to be able to see like, oh shit, that island back there is going to be it's their saving grace, right? It's their home, or some, like they've been stuck at sea or something for some amount of time, and they finally found a place. Or they're coming to a place and like, oh shit, man, this is dangerous. There's like a storm going on in the back. There's, you know what I mean? You're set dressing for that mood and story. So try to think about that, right? Think about that idea, and try to push it forward from there. So, but yeah, man, I think overall they're looking cool. Thank you. All right, let's see. Cool. All right, Andrea, sick. Cool. Next to the portal. Gotcha. Is that this? I call it Sauron option. Nice, I dig it. See, and something I want to point out, right? That idea of like calling it the Sauron option, right? And it's like, that's how a lot of designers talk, right? Whenever you're working in production, right, and you're talking to your art director, talking to whoever, they're like, oh yeah, like dude, make it like the Eye of Sauron. You know what I mean? Like they'll give you these metaphors, and it's really cool because it like paints a picture. And what you want to do is be able to capture that mood, right? I think you did it pretty well. I think between the options, to be honest, right, I think if you grayscale them all, they're all very similar, right? Obviously there's a couple things that you're adding, right? You know, the lack of rocks and floating things kind of happening in that scene versus like the stronger light source and stuff like that. So the options that we have here really aren't drastic enough for me to, for it to truly matter as to like what's happening. But what I will say though is between like these two, right, you kind of want to emphasize, like find out what you want to emphasize, because there's these floating things back here, which is cool. I think, maybe it could be like all around, right? So where there's like bigger ones, maybe there's even one like up close, you know what I mean? Maybe one kind of rising up, you know what I mean? There's like this whole area is just being lifted. Like there's magic swirling and things are starting to like pull out of the ground, right? That could be kind of cool. Or really have that spotlight, that searchlight effect on. Because right now you kind of have this like red soft light or overlay layer on. And it's not quite like, it's not really quite glowing, right? I'd probably start getting a lot of this red to kind of bounce off of this, having like this whole area basically kind of bathed in red, right? So as far as like variations go, I'd probably push them a bit further if you did want some options. I'd pick whichever one you like and just push it from there. So that's kind of how I would approach it. But I think overall it's going the right direction, right? Something to keep in mind. So from what we're looking at, I think your textures are a little strong. I saw that you're doing assets, which is great. Hopefully they helped out a lot. It looks like, you kind of like we're getting the hang of it, and things were kind of like, I guess moving pretty effectively. But once you put the texture in, you got to paint it down a little bit, right? Some of these like up here, these are fine, right? These are fine. But as you're going back, you want to kind of limit that noise, because it's just like photo bashing. I don't know if you photo bash at all, but it's just like photo bashing where you can't just, throw these photos in without having to kind of massage them down. The assets kind of help you get there a bit quicker, but it doesn't do all the work for you. You know what I'm saying? So with that in mind, dude, these look cool. I mean, I think overall it's going a great direction. What I'd probably do, to be honest, is get rid of this top cave section here. Maybe just have this wall right there, extend this way, and then have that maybe wrap like something like that. I don't know. You could probably still have that there. That's fine. The reason for that is because you're kind of like weirdly intersecting your focal point, right? And if you want the attention to kind of be on that thing, you want to kind of show how massive and imposing it is. Really give it that freedom, right? Give it that space to really show us like everything that's going on, But yeah, I think overall these are cool, man. Yeah, thank you. All right, let's see. So we got Matias. Is Matias here? He's not. I don't think he is. Cool. All right, dude, these are dope, man. Yeah, I think so. For everybody, right? This is a second round that Matias is kind of set up, because he already showed me his previous round, and we kind of went through some crits and stuff. And I think these are great, man. We kind of pushed the story aspect, right? Like this guy, this spirit thing, and you can like kind of create this giant spirit, I guess, form that that you kind of fight with. And it's cool because he's putting us in the space. Like I'm experiencing this, right? I'm like here, and this guy's charging at me, right? Which is really cool. It's a super engaging way to kind of bring the audience into your scene, right? So I definitely like what's going on there. I don't know. I was thinking maybe a Dutch angle might be kind of cool. Ooh, that's kind of sick. Like just creating that sense of like, we're lunging at him too. Maybe there's like I don't know, something like maybe there's a hand, maybe our hand, or maybe you could see the guy, like we're it's the perspective of like this guy, or not that guy, but our spirit, like behind us, right? And maybe you see the other guy kind of right here lunging forward with his weapon or something, and then you see maybe like that same hint of a weapon kind of coming this way, where he's like about to like, I don't know, stab him or lance him or whatever it is, right? Whatever action's happening, because now we're in the scene, and the fight is a little more engaging, which I think this one turned out great, man. This one's pretty cool too. I think the other two, the top two, I think work pretty well, right? Especially like as an encounter, or like kind of setting up the entire space, which works well. At this point, you could either take these paintings just 10, 20 degrees further, or just kind of move on and start doing the designs. The things that you kind of want to think about, right? And for everybody, from deciding like, hey, do I go a little bit further than this? Because this is about like a maybe 30% painting, right? We have like graphic read and a little bit of light side and a little bit of atmosphere, but there's no real texture yet. There's no real rendering. So it's basically kind of acting as a thumbnail, right? And so from here, what do? Do you take this painting a bit further to kind of show more of that idea, or do you move on with basically what we're going to be doing today and start designing the pieces? It's up to you and how you want to do that. But I do like taking things a little bit further, right? Because it does, for one, it looks better. There's a higher quality jump, right? If it takes you too long, don't worry about it. But it sells the idea just a little bit more, right? Because depending on what kind of artist or what kind of person that you're pitching this to, right, they might not really understand why it's so loose, right? We as artists know, right? We're like, oh, hey, I get it. You're gonna take that. You're gonna take the finish, right? But the important part to understand is we're not the ones that always see it, right? Maybe it's a producer, maybe it's a whoever, and you want to kind of impress them a little bit. You want to just kind of polish it up, just a little bit further, right? Because it just helps sell that idea a bit more. And also like showing little things, because right now we have the main idea for every piece, right? Where it's like, okay, it's this thing, it's clearly tied to that guy in some sort of way, but maybe having like energy coming off of it, or maybe have like you can see I don't know, like different densities in that spirit, that particle, you know what I mean? And that can kind of help push these ideas just a little bit further. Just things to think about as you're going through it. But I think for now, man, I think you're in a pretty good spot. So thank you, man. Looks good. All right. Cool. All right, Riley. What's up, dude? How'd it go? Dude.
Good. I'm here.
Dude, this turned out sick, man.
Yeah. Thanks. I really like the laser idea that you did and the breaking in. I think that really brought that whole like infiltration vibe like way heavier. So just did that, threw the lasers on, and kind of did the chain link that's been kind of melted away, and then tried to put some like little highlights on the smoke, tunnel, and the drone and the character I pretty much left as is, just because I figured that's probably what I would be designing.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea, right? Because you like, we just need to know that there is a drone and there is a character. You can take it as far as you want, but yeah, it's like a lot of the stuff really isn't too necessary right now. Sick, dude. I'm looking at this. I'm liking what's going on back here, and I'm wondering if we can increase the, interest in this kind of foreground area, right? Like all that, like all this area, right? And I was thinking, like because I can see some of the I guess the meltingness or the hot, I guess metal on the edge of that wire, right? The edge of that fence. I was thinking, oh, what if like this maybe maybe this kind of hits a little bit higher, and you get like I guess a bigger grate, right? So you get like that, whatever that cross section is supposed to look like, and then maybe we get like the hot kind of melted fence looking thing just a little bit closer to us, and it gives us a kind of better foreground to play with. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah.
And it's just because we're just trying to bring a little more balance kind of towards this area. I think overall looks good. There's really not too much I would do after that, other than like just push quality a little bit further. But as a initial image, it looks sick, dude.
Thanks. Yeah, maybe like some stuff on the, if I'm doing a better like design of the tunnel wall, maybe there can be some other things to catch light and stuff like that too that might help. Just add a little bit of variety in that black.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like how do I just create just something a little more interesting other than this one spot? Because now you have the primary focus up, right? The primary focal point. Now try to make maybe a secondary or tertiary. That way the image feels just a little bit more complex. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Dope. How'd this go?
Good. Yeah, I just tried to refined the forest a little bit and the angles of everything because it was a little loose in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And then tried just adding like the city up top, which is like where people are. There's like neon lights and some hints of like maybe some like climate controlled bubbles and some stuff going on up there that's like just another world. And then it's kind of down below, and then like the bottom section is a little more like industrial because it's all kind of part of the same, like it's like a power plant / city like settlement type deal.
Yeah.
So he'll be breaking in the bottom, but the top is like where people would be, the wealthier people would be living.
Dope, dude. Yeah, I think it's looking pretty good. I don't really have too many complaints on it. I think the biggest thing for me is like just hinting at more, right? Where it's like, because you have the physical shapes that I'm seeing, which is great. I think that works well. Now it's like, how do we just make it feel like this thing goes back a lot further, right? Or even goes up higher, right? Where like, I'm letting because what I want to do is let the audience kind of think that there's more going on, right? And like by using like lost edges, and I'm just like kind of creating like little moments of like a hard edge like here, right? But then like don't even worry about it continuing this way because there's just so much density of fog that it doesn't matter. Or same here where you kind of just have that little bit of like value break, and then you can like kind of smudge some of that out. So it feels like there's just more going on because it's we want the imagination to take over, right? I forgot what class I said it in. I was saying to one of my students, I was saying, don't get in the way of my imagination, right? Because what you want to do is you don't want to get in the way of the viewer thinking that there's something back there, and you want to kind of just give them little nuggets to be like, oh, hey, there's something over there, right? And it's a really powerful trick, especially in this, I guess, earlier phase of designing, because it's you don't have to design everything just yet, but you have to tell them like, yeah, there's more, and they can see it. You kind of give them that chance to kind of play with some of those ideas in their head, and they see what they want to see. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I like that a lot. Adding a little more mystery into the shapes.
Yeah, and it's just like I'm just dodging and burning, right? I'm just like creating little selections, and like just highlighting some areas, darkening others, and it kind of helps the audience kind of just feel that there's more back there, But I think as a whole, dude, these are sick. I don't have too many complaints about it at this point, right? It's just hinting a little bit more there. What I'd probably do is maybe darken this down a little bit, right? Where instead of like such a bright, because you have like almost like daytime over there, right? It's like it's almost a full-on daytime like snow scene, but then you have this huge kind of like cloud of like dust and whatever kind of happening. So like maybe maybe it's more ambient, you know, maybe it's just darker and you're kind of getting I guess a heavier kind of atmosphere set. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think like the main reason I was doing that was just because like the main focal was the guy, and then I wasn't sure if it would be slightly becoming the city as I go on. Because now, I mean, what do you think about which focal point is kind of taking over in terms of where it was or what you were adding to?
Yeah, so that is a good point, right? And I guess that's something that we probably need to balance. I think depending on how like, let's say how bright this guy is, like with his orange, right, where he's like, oh, hold up, where his like maybe his suit has more orange lights that are really strong, and maybe getting rid of some of the orange up top, because like now, where we're trying to create this code, right, where it's like there's an orange dude in a suit or an orange lighted guy, and we're trying to like maybe play, because now you see how contrasty that is, because if the environment down here is like blue, right, or blue, right, and this is orange, you have that contrast there, which actually works pretty well. And then, you know, the greens and pinks and stuff kind of play off up there. I think maybe you could like tone down some of this stuff, tone down some of the pinks, that way it's not so let's see if we can do that. Magenta. Yeah, that's kind of cool. But yeah, it's like you're setting up. For one, you could do like color hue contrast, right? This is the more contrasty color, so your attention is going to focus there, as well as the darkest dark and the lightest lights are still down here, right? It's still the darkest areas, or generally the highest contrast between the background and the guy. Because up here, you kind of lose that contrast. You might have a little bit of it right there, but you know, you can tone that down or dial that back. And on top of the fact that, I mean, you know, he's really framed pretty well. Like you see the whole body versus like half of that. It's kind of like mostly obscured. So I don't think it takes over, but you know, it just depends on how you kind of want to see that, right?
Yeah, that was just one thing I was kind of worried, trying to balance the whole time.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's a good call though. That's you know, just I would play with that and kind of see how it goes. And you know, I think right now it's still hitting that balance pretty well. But you know, yeah, if you kind of go overboard with that, yeah, I can't see that being a problem. So, but yeah, man, I think these are cool. I think it's a good place to start, which is nice, right? It's like looking at these two images, they're awesome, man. And now it's like once we start designing stuff and start pushing into a really cool state, dude, it's gonna be a pretty awesome project. So yeah, great job, man.
Sweet. I did have the last little sketch. I just wanted to ask.
Yeah.
I was going to do a third one, this like facility.
Mm-hmm.
And just wanted to get your opinion, because I wanted like for the design and like portfolio piece for it to be a little more like a level design kind of thing, to show that I can do that. So I wasn't sure if having like the really close up, like we had first thought about on the left, those top and second image, or if I should try to do something like I see in some other portfolios, where it's more like not so much of a character story moment, but more of like a full environment shot.
Yeah. It's up to you, right? Because I think, okay, so you have very character centric right here. Is that environment? Yeah, I guess I'd probably push that into a more environment centric, right? Because we're seeing the landscape. So right now you're 1-1, right?
Yeah.
So just depends on what you want to do, right? So yeah, I could see any one of these going. This would be a good shot to kind of go with, right? And you can kind of like see how like this shot right here, or these two shots, is basically this shot but wider, right? Because basically you're just like cropped into there essentially, right? So you know, you can expand on this shot. You know, you can also just have this separate, where like maybe there's a walkway here, maybe he's like hiding right there, and you have like you know, the people walking by or whatever it is. But yeah, I think if you wanted to show that, because you're definitely you're more of an environment guy, definitely, you know, I think you can. But I will say this, just remember that you will have environment shots, right? Because right now, right, we're selling the story, right? We're like, this is why you like this game, this is what you should expect. And then you're gonna have maybe 3 to 4 supporting paintings just like this. So you will have plenty of opportunities to show environment, right? These are just the story moments, and then you're gonna do the layout, you're gonna do the breakdowns and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Nice. Yeah, that's perfect then. If we're gonna move into like other supporting stuff, then I can do both.
Yeah, because like for you, for example, right, looking at this, you know, you have one, you have two, and you'd have, you know, whatever the third shot ends up being, and then each one of those shots would require a wide shot like that, right? Just because you're like, you know, here's the tunnel, like here's the action moment that happens, but then here's the, you know, what the tunnel actually looks like going down, or there's like another split or something. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's a lot of work, but I mean that is naturally probably what you would do, because that's just what happens in production, generally speaking. You know, so. And if you build it in 3D, dude, it just makes things way easier. You know, so.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do.
Cool. Awesome, man. Yeah. Just keep it up, man. This is looking dope.
Thanks. Sorry for taking too much time.
No, you're good. And for everybody else, like, this is why we show up. This is why you should be here when I'm giving you the crit, because it's a little bit easier to kind of talk. I don't like to jump to conclusions whenever we're you know, kind of getting crit. But if you're not here, you know, I can't ask you. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, up to you. Definitely, I'll give you crit regardless. So for, you know, for everybody like participating, like definitely, you know, show it. You know, put something in, because this is project building. This is world building. This is creating a portfolio, and just, you know, some back and forth feedback and stuff really does go a long way. I'm hoping you're kind of seeing that from some of the projects here, and there's definitely some people that have been showing me on the side that just don't want to kind of put it online, which is totally fine if that's what you want to do. But yeah, definitely, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing where everybody goes. All right. So, yeah, this is, you know, going back to what we were talking about earlier, this is the painting that I did, right? You know, I just kind of like, I just looked at like a Rob Rupel painting right here. I'll even bring it up right now. The same rock that we were looking at last time. And I was just kind of like seeing how he did things and just mixing it with some of the, I guess the general ideas that I was kind of going for last week, right? Or the previous week. Let me grab that real quick. And like, whenever I'm painting, right? I always have some sort of reference of somebody that's like just better. Or someone that did a painting that's kind of roughly similar, right? Because I'm like, oh, how did he do some of these things? What is he thinking about, especially in some of this area where like, because you know it's water, but then like you feel like it's that kind of like, you know, that wet sand where there's like like maybe an inch of water there, and then there's like sand because it kind of like comes above it sometimes, and it's a really cool, I guess, kind of thing to go for, and that's exactly what I kind of wanted, right? And I'm not 100%. I wanted a little bit deeper water because it is towards the coast side. But just trying to create some smaller shapes, create some of these sand dunes, and create something a little more interesting. And by using some of the, I guess, some more stylized shapes that I was already creating, right? You know, I had some clouds from if you guys remember what I was doing in the previous weeks, I had some clouds that were kind of like this, right? It's this shape of like, you know, and this world kind of starts taking on some of those shapes. And so I started kind of carving out some of those, like, you know, some of those shapes in the sand to kind of start matching that form language. Started carving out some of those shapes inside the rocks, right? Really getting those cuts to make it feel like it's all cohesive, right? Because I didn't want to render it all like realistic if part of it is stylized, right? Just like the way the clouds are versus, you know, it's gonna stand out kind of weird. But, you know, hopefully it's in a semi-realistic way, not like 100%, but you know what I'm saying? There's like a stylization to it, but there's a higher level of sophistication, right? And so I was just kind of painting, I was just moving, and yeah, you know, hopefully we got to something kind of cool. You know, I think it's approximately where I want it to be. I do want to kind of take this centipede creature thing, maybe, you know, 50% further, but it's in a pretty good spot, like to where it's like, okay, it sells the image. Like, you should, generally speaking, be able to tell what's going on. But this leads into what I'm going to do next, right? We're going to be designing, just diving deeper into design, right? Really trying to pull references and try to really make this thing something interesting. Because right now it's basically silhouettes with like a bunch of shapes just bashed inside. And let me show you how to go about that, right? natural inclination, right, would be to just draw it like flat, right, or sideways or whatever it is. If you don't learn anything today, right, this is what I want you to remember. Design in context, right? And what that means is design it the way that they're going to see it first, because if it looks good in that view, then you're good, right? Because when you're designing something, right, especially in 3D, this happens to me a lot in 3D. I'll design something and then I'll kind of put it in the angle that it needs to be in, right? And then what happens is whenever I look at it, like, you know, I just bring the camera and render out that shot, like, you know, the silhouette doesn't look any good. The, you know, the angle that I need doesn't have the details that I wanted, but I put all the details on the backside where you'd never see it anyway. And so there's a lot of like kind of wasted effort, and you have to go back in and redesign that, because whenever I'm looking at this, I need a couple things to happen, right? I need the silhouettes of these legs to kind of pop through. I need the segmentation of this back to look like it's pretty accurate, or at least make sense. And then I need this face to kind of look a certain way, right? That's the main thing. Everything going on in the back here, like if you were to like, you know, find out where it's kind of coming through, right? None of that actually matters, right? Especially if you're only going to see it in this angle, or at the very least, you're going to experience it first in this angle, right? That's what you want to think about. So whenever I'm doing this, there's two reasons that I'm going to design this way, right? You might have saw it earlier, right? I kind of pulled it out. I just had just a simple like mock-up of, not a mock-up, I guess a simple like call out of this thing, because I want to design it the way you're going to see it first, right? I'm going to make this better. It looks like trash right now, but it's, you know, this is what it's going to be, right? And the cool part about this is, one, you're designing in context. So the angle that you see it is the angle that you design in first. We'll get to the call outs. We'll get to the turnarounds. But second, I'm designing in this view because once I'm done, I can just plop it into this painting, and now I have a complete painting, right? You don't want to have to design something in a side view or whatever, and then, you know, have to then repaint it again when you need to go to this painting, right? Because this painting is meant to sell, and this painting is just helping you inform. This painting is going to go a lot further in a production setting, right? Because whenever we show this, we're going to show it like this. And then there's going to be a call out, be like, oh, this is what it looks like in normal daylight lighting, right? And so I'm gonna paint this as if it's like an ambient kind of daylight scene, right? Or paint or draw, I haven't decided yet. But whatever I do, right, the design's going to be just in a normal light setting, and then I can just composite it in, darken things down, get rid of things, whatever it is. And you're going to have a highly finished painting here, and then a pretty good in context drawing here. And then the next step would be model it out, make the pieces, do what you need to do, right? And so that's why we do things this way. You can do it however you'd like, but I do recommend that because it makes this step a little bit easier, and it helps you understand the main view that you're supposed to be in, right? Because I've designed things so many times where the silhouette looks like trash, or like just the graphic read doesn't work because I didn't design in the angle I'm supposed to see it in. You know, I designed this ship. It was like this, you know, this like big giant like mothership type thing, and we see it from the bottom looking up, but I put all the details on top, right? Because I was like, dude, I designed it in like a top 3/4 view. I was like, dude, this ship looks sick, man. And then like, you know, the design itself needs to be from bottom up, and basically I had to basically redo that design because you never see, or you rarely see, that top view, right? And that's kind of what you want to think about. So, but let's do this. Let's see. Should I draw or should I paint? I guess you guys don't ever see me draw, huh? I don't think my students really have seen any of my drawings. I don't say any, but very rarely do they get to see me draw, which is probably a bad thing. Let's see. Nice. Yeah, it's funny. I did a line drawing demo for my mentorship a couple weeks ago, or a week ago, or whatever it was, and yeah, I do things like that. So, you know, here I'll draw it just for you to. It's probably not going to be amazing because you guys probably draw better than I can. So, you know, but we'll see what I can do. I can't be like, it's important to draw, and then like, there's no proof that I ever draw. Let's see. So I'm trying to get these colors to look semi-normal right now. Hold up. Cool. So guys, how's everybody's week? How's everybody's 2 weeks? I know we took a Halloween break. A big reason, while everyone formulates their answers and starts typing, a big reason that I didn't stream last week, because I didn't want to like set up that precedent of like, I'm gonna stream and do things regardless of what's happening in the world, and you know, have people or expect people to show up and watch this, right? Because it's like, dude, it's just a live stream, right? And I think, you know, maybe me before, maybe like whenever I first started, it was a lot of like, oh yeah, I don't care what holiday's happening, you know what I mean? But it's like, you know, just go out and do things, man. Go experience the world. Go be somebody. You know what I'm saying? Because it really does help your designs look so much better. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna try to do that as much as I can, right? Just not stream, you know, whenever there's a big thing. That way people can just enjoy their holidays without feeling like they missed something. Especially the ones that are like participating, right? Because, you know, you're like, oh, do I miss a crit or do I hang out with, you know, my friends or whatever? You should definitely go hang out with your friends. Don't, this isn't important. This is just art. So, let's see. All right. Let's see. Findown says, would you also design in C2 for something like a video game or enemy where you have less control over how the player will first see it? I still would design this way, because there is a way that generally speaking they will encounter it first, right? Like for example, oftentimes whenever you're let's say entering a boss room, or even entering like a new part of the city, or even entering the city, there's always like an archway, there's always like a doorway, some sort of like funnel that pushes you into one spot and then breaks out into like the next location, right? So that makes sense. If you played games, you know that's true. The reason that happens is because when you get to that spot, you walk up and they're forcing you to stand right here. And generally speaking, your camera is going to be pointed in a general direction, right? And so they are kind of forcing you to look at it in a certain way. Just like when you go to Disneyland or, you know, any theme parks, they do that as well. They set up that experience for that first couple steps, because you know, you want to kind of immerse them the best you can right when they walk in, because that's really the only chance you get to control them. Because once they go past that, they can go left, right, they can go, you know, up or down, whatever they're doing, right? So you have a little bit less control when it comes to that stuff. Yes, it is true, right? You will get, I guess, a little bit less control, I guess, overall, right? But there is still a view that they're going to experience this in. So I'm imagining like, oh, you roll up to this this thing, and then, you know, some sort of cinematic thing happens, and this thing crawls out of the ground, and you first encounter this like kind of wrapping itself around the rock, right? It'd still be roughly similar. It would just be, you know, after that, you'd probably see it moving around doing its thing, which we'll worry about that later. But we do have a point of view that is relevant. You know what I'm saying? So, sorry, very long-winded explanation, but yes. I guess that's, I mean, you guys know that about me. There's no surprises about long-winded explanations at this point. All right. Cool. Let's see. All right, guys. I'm gonna start drawing. Actually, before we do that though, I'm gonna pull up some reference that I brought. I didn't bring it. It's here. It's on the internet. It's not on the internet now. It's in my folder. But let me just pull that up. Where did I put it? Should be here. Should be here. Nope. Should be, yeah. There it is. 5 reference. All right. So I was just doing some reference gathering earlier, right? And I was just kind of like just finding stuff, and I was like, dude, this is sick, you know. And I started thinking about like anti-aircraft weapons, right? Very large guns, basically, and specifically the Japanese kind, because this is, you know, the project. And so I'm just trying to look for like things that could possibly happen. And the reason I went here first is because I felt like the legs were the most important part of this design, right? So I was like, oh, wouldn't it be sick if like this was like a leg, you know, and it's like attached somehow, and he just, you know, instead of like, because I don't want it to be a gun, right? Whenever like there's a creature, like, you know, some sort of thing that turns into another thing, what you don't want to do, what I generally speaking don't want to do, is try and, I guess, take the thing and have it useful again. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want this gun to still be a gun. You know, it could still work, but I don't want it to be a gun, because there's a lot, I guess, a lack of creativity. There's, oh, what if I turn it to a leg? And then this animation happened where, in my mind, not physically, but I was thinking like, oh, wouldn't it be really cool if like this centipede was kind of walking around, and then it started like shooting the ground with its feet to kind of like warm it up, and then it just kind of lays down like my cat does that, where he'll just kind of like walk in a circle and he'll kind of like plop down, because these are creatures, these are animals at the end of the day, right? And so when I'm designing this, I'm trying to think of a couple things, right? The references that I brought, right, that I decided on doing, and then the behaviors and the animations that this thing is going to encompass, right? Because, you know, it's gonna move, and you want to kind of think about that as you're going, and you can kind of pitch that. Obviously, we'll do an image later that kind of shows that, but when you start seeing different moments, that's when I feel like a good design starts to kind of flourish a little bit, right? I'm able to kind of show, I guess, more than what you're seeing, right? Because if I'm putting it together, right, chances are somebody else is, and I'm linking it to, like, you know, things that I know. Like, I have 2 cats, and we foster before, and you know, animals just in general, they kind of walk around their spot. They do that digging motion. They, you know, look for sticks or whatever, and you know, I'm just trying to replicate that whenever I'm going, right? You might not see that here, but like if he kind of went from up top, and then he started like he was gonna take a nap, right? Maybe his feet kind of start shooting the ground and starts kind of like creating this little nest for himself, and then he just settles in, right? Wouldn't that be like such a cool thing to see? Because they're such, like, I guess, deadly weapons, but it'd be like a fun way to kind of see that all, especially like all these legs kind of like moving around. So that was the idea. Whether it works out or not, you know, who knows? But that's what I'm gonna do. And then, you know, just kind of pulling more references and seeing, you know, what's like things that I could use, right? I saw this shield thing that's in front of the gun, or between, I guess, the barrel of the gun and the operator side, this thing right there. And it's like, I was looking for like panels that I could use that kind of like can cover a lot of that mechanicalness, right? Or even thinking like, oh, how does some of this break and rot, and seeing some of those inside framing structures. Or even thinking like submerged tanks and stuff. Maybe this thing came out of the water, you know, just a bunch of like maybes, a bunch of like, oh, you know, this could be kind of cool. Because at the end of the day, this is the first design pass, right? This is the first drawing that we're gonna do that kind of pushes some of these ideas. We're gonna take this further, right? I'm gonna do probably a couple of these, not during this stream, but like I usually do, come back with a couple drawings and kind of show you maybe some ideas I had, and then maybe commit to one and kind of paint that up. So, but some really cool stuff. I like this. This gun was cool. That's fine. But what I actually liked was this kind of like, this container cockpit area, whatever it is, because it gives me a lot of flat metal to work with, right? Like the gun part is easy. I've already thought about, like, I thought about that the second that we even designed the creature, right? But now it's like, how do I make sense of like the rest of it, right? And giving me like flat pieces of metal to work with, I think was really what I was looking for in this kind of design phase. Very solid pieces to give me areas of rest, so it's not just an amalgamation of like all of these more intricate parts. We need like to kind of balance that a bit. So cool. Okay. Let's see. Let's just pull something in. I kind of like, where is this? I liked how complex some of these were. Like, that's dope, dude. I like how it moves and stuff. Like that hinge right there. Like, obviously it's not a hinge. It's just it angles the gun. But I'm looking at it like a hinge, and dude, these are sick. Maybe I could do. Should be the first one. We could do a couple of them too. It's not like that's cool. Yeah, like what was the one I had earlier? Is it over here? Yeah, let's do that. That's kind of cool. So when I draw or when I design, just in general, right? Bring in reference. If you ever think about not doing reference, stop it and bring in reference. Just don't. You know what I mean? Like if you're ever like thinking that you don't need it, rethink your life decisions. Because this is how we design. This is how we create realistic, interesting things. So, you know, actually, let me do it this way. It's too big. I can't see him at once. Son of a. Maybe if I cut it out, I get a little more real estate. If you guys have any questions, we're kind of in that demo phase, so I'd love to talk about anything you guys want to talk about. So, well, let's do something like that. That's good enough. Yeah, buddy. All right. All right. So my initial sketch is gonna be just a rough one, right? Because what I need to do right now, what I want to do, is solidify a couple things, right? When I'm trying to create my image, there's always, you know, just like what I was talking about with like my main image, there's a focal point and there's like the foreground areas, you know, like places I need to finish. That way it looks complete, right? So when you're doing a prop, right, this is our creature prop. There's a couple things that you want to kind of think about, right? Especially when you see it in context like this, where you're like, okay, there's three main areas that need to be established, right? Before I do anything else, before I start rendering or adding the small things, whatever, there's a couple things that need to be established, which is one of the legs, right? And in this case, how this leg connects to the body, right? So this area right there, that needs to be established. The head and the tail, right? Because if I get the leg and I get like the, you know, one segment of this, all of that's figured out, right? And then I just need to figure out how it ends. And then I have the head here where it's like, you know, it needs a face or something. It needs something to kind of emote, or at least try to emote, you know. But that's the idea, right? Because you don't want to just start like back here and then you're like, oh, I haven't figured out, because you want to, you know, be efficient about the way you draw, the way you design. So, you know, just yeah, kind of plan it out, right? So let's see. Should I flip this reference? Oh yeah, boy. Normally what I would do is just grab that, drop it in, call it a day. But actually, maybe I'll do something like that. Hold up. Dude, it just does itself, baby. All right. I'll draw it though. I'll make it cool. I'll make it less shitty. Because I want this thing to kind of look like it connects somehow, right? It's just something. So I'm gonna maybe those guns kind of like point this way, you know. But the whole idea is I just need something to kind of get me started. And if it looks like I'm tracing, that's exactly what I'm doing. If you're ever wondering if like we draw everything from scratch, no, never. Don't ever do that. I mean, you can, right? But you know, if you like working overtime, you could definitely do that. Let's see. Just want some basic shapes, because like whenever I do this, what I want is just the semblance that this thing kind of works, right? Where it's like, oh, that kind of makes sense, right? That's roughly what I'm looking for, right? And then from there, I'll use my, you know, design brain and kind of figure out how the rest kind of works. You know what I mean? So whenever I'm starting this sketch, I'm not too worried about, I guess, I don't know, the trying to be trying to find out like all the trying to design as much as I can. I'm trying to just make some things feel like they're sort of functional, right? So I'm putting a part that hinges on a part that should bend, right? And from there, you know, copying some of these shapes. That way my form language is like semi-accurate, right? Because we still want this to feel like it's of that era. And then, you know, we'll weather it down. We'll do what we need to do in a second, or I guess later, not today, but we just need something that's like roughly similar, right? And then from there, we can do whatever we want. Cool. Sick. All right. Do that twice, right? Cool. I'll probably erase some of this stuff. And for those of you that like, that know the way I paint, that kind of like seen the way I, I guess the way I kind of go about my paintings and stuff. If that looks familiar, where like you're kind of duplicating things, it's because that's exactly what I do. I think something that I try to do as much as I can is maintain the same workflow, right? Because whenever I'm designing, I don't want to kind of do everything differently. Even though this is a drawing compared to paintings, right? It's the same techniques. It's the same general process. And so when you do this, right, you want to make sure that you're at least kind of like comfortable, right? Because I'm not really comfortable if I'm drawing things 100% from scratch, which, I mean, I can. I'm not saying I can't. But there is a level of like, I am trying to, I guess, I don't know, just bring back some of that workflow. You know what I'm saying? So, cool. David says, congrats on Blue Eye Samurai, Kenny. All the concept art I've seen from the team was beautiful. Was there any takeaways from the project that helped push your design? Yeah. Oh, thank you. First of all, thank you. You know, definitely my art leads and production designers and, you know, art directors and stuff like that. Definitely like, you know, really like carried that project, right? I think it was, you know, a huge team effort. And it was cool seeing, you know, everybody's designs kind of coming through in the weeks, right? I think I don't know, something I pulled from that design process or from that experience. I think for me, maybe one of the bigger things that I guess kind of learned during that project was how production kind of works, right? How like a lot of the things that I'm kind of talking about here, or a lot of the things that I kind of brought into some of my leadership roles later, right, was learned there, right? Kind of seeing how like, I guess, art directors and production designers operate, right? Because I think for me, it was so cool watching, I guess, my leads just like prepare work. It's funny. It's the easiest thing too, where it's like, not easiest, but it's like the simplest thing where it's like just creating launch packets, right? You wouldn't think it's that big a deal, but if you've ever experienced a bad art director, you know that it's like you're often asking like, what the hell does this person want? You know what I mean? Like it's such a funny thing, but it's so simple. But the idea of being able to design, or being able to set up an artist to kind of do what they need to do is a really big task, or a really important task. And kind of seeing the way that they kind of handled like that, I think was huge, right? I think some of the art stuff, definitely I learned a lot, but there's a lot through practice, right? It was like just a lot of like, you know, you just draw to be better, right? Like, you know, the more you draw, the better you'll get, right? So that's pretty standard. I would say I don't even say keeping up, but trying to keep up with Yun Ling is ridiculous. I hate that guy and love him so much. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, God damn it, right? Because he would like submit the stuff that he's showing. And like a lot of the stuff he's showing, like some of his models and stuff, he would do it. And just be like, he's so chill about it. It would be like he got the assignment and literally that same day or like the next day, he'd just come back with like these full-on turnarounds, these full sets designed out, and they look good, you know? And it's funny because you're like, you just got launched the same day, and then you're just watching him, you know, submit stuff, and it's painful, you know. It's like, it's like, you know, just trying to keep up with that caliber of artist. But you know, for him, like he he was such a helpful. He's such a helpful guy. If you guys ever meet him, he's super nice, and very good at what he does. And yeah, it was fun to kind of learn from that. I think seeing his process and seeing how he went about things and how other artists go about things has been probably one of the main things that I kind of grab every time I work in any kind of production, just because that is the harder things to pick up, right? Because when you first start, it's like, oh yeah, I need to get better at drawing. I need to get better at whatever, right? Which is absolutely right. That's gonna happen for sure. But if you pay attention to like how I guess your art directors direct you, right, or your production designer creates prompts or creates whatever he needs you to do, right? You learn so much more. I think it's such a good experience for everybody to like just pay attention, you know, watch what they're doing and try to replicate that and try to see like, oh, why did he give me this reference? Why did he say that thing? Because it really does help, you know, it goes a long way. So, all right. So with this drawing, right, I'm just kind of keeping things pretty loose. And I'm just kind of moving, right? I don't know exactly how things, because right now I took that one piece. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, right? It looks like a really nice hinge. And what I'm trying to do now is create I guess some sort of like, I don't know, connection point, which we can kind of figure out a little bit later. But I'm just kind of going piece by piece and seeing what I can make, right? By kind of kit bashing this piece around this hinge area, right? Or whatever this thing is, I can, you know, kind of set myself up to create something maybe, you know, a little more believable, right? And then from here, we'll make some cool stuff and we'll do whatever it is we need to do, right? Let's see, horizontal right there, bro. Dude, you know what I'm saying, man? It's like, you know, it's like, oh, I don't really know how to draw like complex things. You don't need to, man. You know, I mean, you got to know what you're doing. Like something that, you know, I am making light of something, I guess that is, I guess, a pretty complex idea, I would say. But what I am saying is that, you know, I know what I need to design, right? Because realistically speaking, whenever we're looking at this creature thing, right, there is a leg that goes like this, right? There's boom, and then boom. Right, and it connects some sort of way. There needs to be some sort of pivot or some sort of thing that allows it to move, right? And then really, I'm just looking at, you know, hinges that can kind of move this way, back and forth, right? That way, right? And then hinges that can like rotate this way. And I'm just thinking about like, okay, this piece that I need the form language to match, I'm just putting that in to kind of get me started, right? And you know, I start freestyling in after a second, but that initial kind of, you know, that initial kind of burst of inspiration really does help, you know, so. But yeah, it's funny. A lot of the stuff that I talk about, like in this stream or just in my classes, right, came from that Netflix experience. I think one of the big things that I guess I learned was like really, right, is a stronger, more consistent process, right? And kind of like what some pieces were for. Like, I mean, I generally knew, right? Like, I mean, I know what a VizDev piece is. I know what a color key versus matte painting and all those things are. But there is I don't know, there's a difference. And kind of seeing like how like, I guess some of my leads kind of managed all that, right? Because if you've never heard of like how much a painting costs, you know what I mean? Or like, you know, some of the like for example, like my production designer would invite us into meetings and we'd get to watch just how they operate, right? You know, I don't know exactly why. I'm assuming it's to kind of create more exposure in the studio. But we would go to these meetings and I went to all of them. Like every single time they invited us, I went to it and I was there. I was just a fly on the wall and I was just listening, because if you ever want to be, I guess, a higher level artist in your studio, right? If you ever, for those that want to be like art directors, things like that, you know, whatever, you can't just be someone that draws and paints well, right? That's not the skills that makes you a an art director, right? The person that can draw and paint really well, generally speaking, isn't, or not necessarily, right, the art director or the lead or whatever, right? Because that's not the skill. That's not what makes you a valuable, I guess, valuable in that role. You know what I'm saying? It's something else. And so whenever I go to these meetings, you know, I'm not part of it, right? But they did allow me to sit in, which is really nice. And I got to just learn. I got to just watch, like watching people's conversation change, watching their lingo from one role to another, right? Because whenever I talk to my, let's say my production designer, right, or whoever, and we're sitting there, we're talking about art. It's like, oh, hey, you know, check your values or check your, you know, design, whatever, right? Colors, this and that, right? Art talk, right? Same thing that we talk about here. But, you know, whenever he's talking to like producers, he's like, oh, this is going to cost this amount. Or, you know, he's talking to directors. He's like, oh, maybe we can do this lensing or that lensing, right? We can do all of these cool things that, you know, directors kind of talk about, because he's changing his language every time he speaks, because he's matching whatever they need to talk about, right? And it sounds like such a small thing, but I think as artists, we're so tied into like what we do, where it's like, you know, we just have concept art speak, or we just have these general like, I guess, I don't know. We just have the language that we speak, and we don't branch out of that, you know? It really is a hindrance, right? Or not a hindrance, but it really does stop you from growing, you know, because you're not adapting, you're not learning the rest of the pipeline. Because, you know, when you're an artist, when you're, you know, junior, mid-level, senior, right? Like just a concept artist or viz dev artist, generally speaking, you only interact with your art directors, right? Whoever your leads are, slash maybe every once in a while a modeler, right? Somebody else will generally interact with them for you sometimes, you know? And so if that's the case, then you never really get to talk to them. You never really get to experience like what they mean, right? What they need, what they're saying. And getting to see how my leads like changed and like talked about different things was such a cool experience. I felt like it was such a I guess an interesting I guess learning experience, because I mean that's what they do, you know what I mean? Like that's why they are who they are, you know? So I think definitely pay attention to those things. It does go a long way. So all right, so like this initial sketch that I'm doing here, I'm just keeping it super chill, right? It's just like I'm just putting pieces in places, and I'm just trying to see what happens, you know what I mean? And like just letting the inspiration kind of take over, right? This is whenever I'm drawing, this is basically what I would be doing if I was painting, right? There's really not that big of a difference. The only difference now is instead of like, you know, say like a painting, it's just line work, right? But the way I look at it is there's no difference between painting and line work, right? It's all visual communication. We're all just communicating what we're trying to design, right? And a big reason as well that I'm being a little bit, I would say, looser about this is because this is going to be a model. I don't know to what degree, right? I don't know what, I don't know how far I'm going to take that model before I start like kind of painting on top and stuff. But I just kind of need the major forms. And I'm trying to get a cool drawing out of it for sure, but I'm not too worried about, you know, all that stuff. So cool. Let's see. I think a big reason I wanted to draw too, because I recently got the, what is it? The Astro something. What was it called? What was that thing called? What did I call it? What did they call it? Hold up 2 seconds. I'll find it. The AstroPad nib, right? And for Apple Pencil, and I've been like drawing on the couch. I've been like doing studies and stuff like that with my iPad, so I've been drawing a bit more. So funny too. I've been feeling a little bit stagnant. I don't know. I guess I guess we always do, right? But in terms of like my drawing abilities or my just design abilities as a whole, I've been feeling a little bit stagnant. And I think like I've been wanting to kind of go back to some fundamental things. So in my spare time, you know, we'd be like watching a movie or, you know, doing whatever it is that we're doing. And I'll just be on my couch and just draw. I'll either do a study or I'll do, you know, some sort of design. I'll show you guys a little bit later. Maybe not today, but I'll show you something where some things I was working on. Yeah, it's been fun. You know, I think if you're ever feeling stagnant, if you're feeling like your skill level isn't increasing, right, no matter what you're learning or what you're doing, something that really helps, right, is just go backwards, go do the other thing. You know what I mean? Like the thing that you've been avoiding, go do that. Because it's probably going to unlock something, or it's probably going to make you see something a little bit differently. That's why, like, oftentimes you'll see, let's say, like an artist that you know you look up to or whatever, and they always kind of go. You always see them like doing studies. You know what I mean? You always see them like doing like film studies or doing whatever. If they're like pretty active about their skill set, you know, trying to improve that. You always see them kind of pushing that idea, and it's helpful, you know. So if you ever feel stuck, I'd recommend it. I'm gonna switch to this like ellipse brush. This texture brush is being kind of weird. It's funny too, like because I never draw. I don't say never, but because like my drawings don't really need to exceed past like what I was showing for the sketch. I don't really have a drawing setup, like, because I don't have a brush that I kind of go to. I have a brush that makes marks that I just like, you know, scale down and then get it roughly to where I need it to be. But I don't have a brush that's like, this is my drawing brush. And it's been a fun experience trying to figure all that stuff out again. And it's funny too, because like, I was like, oh yeah, I'll get this chalk brush and I'll do something kind of cool. I'll do something fun, and it's like, you know, it's all like nice, and I'll kind of see like if it's like chalky enough. Like, does this feel like graphite? You know, is this the experience that we're looking for? And then I'm like, what? I'll be in the middle of drawing, and I'll be like, fuck it, just go hard round, just go back. You know, you don't have to worry about pressure sensitivity. You don't have to worry about all that stuff. You know, you just make it happen because you're an artist, right? Cool. I was looking at some Emerson Tongue stuff too. If you guys don't know who that is, look him up. He's really cool, like mechs and robots and stuff, and he makes it out of like old, like same type of like it looks like some of them are inspired by like World War II, you know, like ships and stuff like that, and or planes and stuff, and he makes some really cool looking stuff. I was looking at that a little bit earlier. It was sick. Roddy says, I rotate between drawing brushes all the time. It feels cool for a day. The next time I hit it. Yeah, dude, 100%, man. Like, whenever I'm, I guess, going through my brushes and stuff for drawing in particular, I'm like, oh yeah, that's really cool. And then fucking this thing sucks. You know, like my hand gets tired or whatever. So, but, you know, it's the brush, not me, right? Cool. Do you guys, when you're drawing, when you're designing, do you guys do this a lot? Like, do you just take pieces and start tracing it, right? It's such a funny thing where it's like, I guess there's the academic way we learn where it's like, oh, you need to draw everything from scratch. And then part of me is like, dude, I need to get this shit done, dog. You know? I was just trying to like get it through and like, that looks kind of sick, you know? It's coming out, right? It's like, it's something where I don't need this to be the most beautiful thing right now, right? Because I'll make it work. And one thing you do have to be careful of really is your perspective, because I'm just grabbing photos and just, you know, putting them where I need them to be. But it kind of gets the juices flowing, right? I think for me, it's a super useful technique. So if you're ever like trying to draw more complex things, all you have to remember, especially with mechanical things, is there's a base function that needs to happen. as long as that kind of base function isn't encumbered, right? Like as long as it hinges the way it's supposed to hinge, or it makes sense the way it's supposed to go, right? You're good. You know, you're probably 90% of the way there. And after that, it's, dude, just freaking, I don't know, man. Just make it work, right? Just find some cool things. And then like the intersection points, like here, like I was kind of, doing that kind of piston section right there. It's just the connection points. It doesn't need to make as much sense, right? And look at that, dude. We got freaking almost one leg. You know what I'm saying? Dude, that's dope. Let's go. And the cool part is, with like the perspective of a lot of these like smaller pieces, almost don't matter as much. It's kind of like figure drawing in this specific case. I don't know whatever you're going to be doing, but in this specific case, the perspective doesn't matter as much, just because it's a noise piece, right? As long as it kind of looks like what it's supposed to do, you'll get roughly close, right? So, and then just in true Kenny fashion, right? Boom. Duplicate that. Grab some of this, get rid of that, bro. And they go, dude, you drew all that by hand? And you look them in the eyes. Same trick, man. You look them in the eyes and tell them, yes, I did that. That's why you pay me the big bucks. Exactly. Same trick, different day. It's it all relates, it's all the same thing. I think like one of the biggest things that happened to me whenever I was first learning, right, was the day that design kind of like, I don't want to say clicked. I still sucked at it, right? I still terrible at design, but everything started to make sense, where I was like, oh, character design, environment design aren't that different. Prop design, it's all the same principles. Design is design. And it didn't quite make sense to me just yet. It was like, I was kind of like, I was like, oh, there's an environment and there's a character and there's a prop. Those are completely different worlds, right? And then once I took this, it's funny, I took a Steven Silver class. Steven Silver's the character designer for, most known for like Kim Possible, but he did a bunch of different stuff. A lot of your 90s, like, or 2000s cartoons and stuff was, like that guy. But anyway, I took a character design mentorship with him. And to be honest, thinking back, like, it didn't really seem like that, I guess, that relevant of a class to take, right? But I took it, and then I guess, like, because I was in environment design so often, I kind of just heard the same things over and over again, And so, once I got out of that, I was like, oh, it's the same ideas. It's the same, I'm exposing myself to this different world, right? And realizing that it's actually not that different of a world. And like, I guess my design sense, I feel, kind of leveled up a lot at that point, right? I was, I guess, getting to a point to where I was starting to kind of get higher level designs. And, luckily I got hired soon after that. I don't say that soon, but it was, relatively soon. And, it was such a cool experience. I highly recommend, like, if you're somebody, oopsies, how big is this canvas? Yeah, 8,000. That's about right. If you're somebody that's like struggling with design just as a whole, take other design classes, right? Do something else. Go experience things a different way, because you don't know what's gonna click. And then, obviously, if you, classes cost a bit of money, so I get if you're not going to be able to kind of afford that. But right, look up videos, talk to people, ask them things, because this is our industry, right? That we design for a bunch of different things, and you're gonna have to do prop designs every once in a while. You're gonna have to do environment designs, and if you can understand what they're thinking, it makes your design so much better. Like my designs kind of leveled up a lot ever since that class, right? And it wasn't like anything in particular that he said, right? It wasn't like something that, I guess, that like pertains specifically to environment designers, but it was something that I guess I just kind of understood what design was kind of meant to be, right? I think at that point I didn't really quite get it. You know what I'm saying? So All right, cool. Really rough sketches. Let's find another thing to trace, dude. Let's see. Boom. Oops, where's my mouse at? Dude, my mouse is like freaking out. There it is. All right, we're good. Crisis averted. Okay, let's see. What do we got? We just did this one, right? Yeah, I did the reverse of that, which is cool, which is fine. That's kind of cool. Let's see. See what we do with that. Dude, that little kid, he's having the time of his life, dude. I'm not gonna cut him out. You can't. You gotta respect that kid. Yeah, go right around that. There you go. Bro, dude, it does itself, man. Like, dude. And then, you know, they ask you like, oh, hey, how'd you come up with that? And you're like, dude, because my imagination is fucking sick, you know? You're like, dude, because I just see the world differently. My brain is something else. And this is all tracing. Finn Down says, I got Steven Silver's character design book on my shelf and I still haven't read the full thing. Yeah, it's a good book. I don't know exactly which one, because he has a couple, but yeah, I bought that book as well, or bought one of his books. And yeah, it's cool because I think like when I started learning, I think the thing that I learned that I guess whatever clicked, right, was that it was, I guess, the personality, right? Creating like an emotion, creating some sort of like, I don't know, like thing. Oh, what the hell am I drawing? There it is. Is like creating some sort of like personality in your characters, right? Because, you know, the way he was explaining it, the way he was explaining it was like, oh yeah, you know, these are people, not just like costume designs, right? And you know, it's funny because if you're a character designer, that's the most basic shit you've ever heard, right? Yeah, cut me some slack, right? I was an environment designer, so, you know, chill out. But it was cool because when I learned that, I started applying that not just to characters, but, you know, to my environments as well, right? Started creating a character in the environment, right? Just like what I was talking about with some of the feedback earlier. That's a not direct quote, but the direct like type of learning that I learned from Steven, right? Or just from my character design class. It was, you know, he was talking about like the characteristic of like some of these things to kind of show like that kind of personality. And whenever I'm saying like, oh, you know, create a personality with this environment where it's like, it feels dangerous, it feels scary, it feels whatever, you know, and you set dress it accordingly, right? And, you know, it's the same thing with his design course where it's like we set dress our characters with a costume, right? It's you know, but the costume is designed based off of what the character would wear, right? If it's like a, you know, gangster or hardcore or whatever, whoever, you know what I mean? Like there's costumes that come to mind when you think about those things. And so for me, like it kind of like everything kind of just made a little more sense, which is really nice because before I was like, what do you mean make it like, give it a personality? It's a rock. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh no, it's a gun. Like, why would, you know what I mean? Like, why would that look whatever? But there is an inherent feeling that you get from these things. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, this thing feels scary. This thing feels intense. This thing feels, you know, dangerous, or this feels happy. It feels very safe, whatever, right? And we're channeling that same idea and just putting that into props and things versus a character. You know what I'm saying? And this kind of like leads back to some of the ideas that I tell a lot of my students is when you're taking like taking classes, right? Because I get this question a lot where it's like, oh, what class should I take next, right? I'm always like, take a class that you probably wouldn't think you would need to take, right? Because oftentimes there's like, oh yeah, what class should I take? I'm like, you know, have you taken a storyboarding class? You're like, well, I do environments. It's like, yeah, but you should probably take a storyboarding class. And it sounds funny, right? If you don't know, if you've never done that, it's like, oh yeah, that doesn't sound right. It's like, why would I do that? It's storyboards. It's a whole different job. And technically you are correct, right? There is a level of like, yeah, you don't need that 100%, but there are things that like, I guess these different industries know that we just don't as environment designers, specifically environment designers, right? There's things that, you know, they learn that they operate on, that really do make a difference when it comes to our designs, right? And so whenever you're, you know, trying to find new classes, think about who the best people are at whatever it is that you want to learn. If you want to learn like figure drawing or getting good at, you know, like it's just figure drawing in general, right? You might want to look at animators, right? You know, people that do a lot of movement, people that do create a lot of gesture in their drawings, because that's what they do. You know what I mean? Some of the best figure drawing teachers tend to be people that know a lot of gesture and you know, and just form in general, right? There's like the fine art way of doing it, where it's like long pose and stuff like that, which is a whole nother thing where you're starting to get into like painting and stuff like that, right? If you're ever trying to, I guess, progress through your, I guess your skill set, right? Where you're like, oh, you know, I'm going to be an environment designer, so I'm going to take all the world building classes. Great. You know, that's a good place to start. But take the other stuff, right? Do the things that you probably might not, you know, think that you need, right? Because, or at least, you know, look into it first. Be like, okay, well, who takes this class? And, you know, what are the, what am I learning? This and that, right? Because a lot of those things, they really do help. And it makes you different, right? It makes you think different, because if you take, let's say, if I were to start from scratch, let's say I'm gonna take a VisCom class, right? It's pretty simple. And then you take a perspective class, right? That's in line with what a environment designer would probably need, right? And then I take, let's say, world building 1, 2, 3. I take a Blender class, right? And then I take, I don't know, some other, like my friend Dave, he's teaching a game narrative design, but basically like a higher level environment design class, right? If you took all those classes and you mastered it all and you're like really good, right? Congratulations, you are a stock standard environment artist, which is not what you want to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, because everyone took that. Yes, that's what they're all doing. You know, that's what everyone's trying to do, right? That's the class. That's the minimum. You know, you're the I don't know, you're the ham sandwich of concept artists, right? It's very basic. You're not really that special, just because you don't know anything past what literally everybody else is trained to know. You know what I'm saying? And it's like when they hire you, they're like, "Oh, what do you offer?" You know, you're like, "Oh, I'm really good at environment designs." And like, yeah, so is the other 50 applicants. So what can you do for us? You know what I'm saying? And it sounds kind of harsh. It sounds kind of, you know, kind of fucked up, right? But that's the reality. That's what you're dealing with, right? When you have to go and talk to these people, these recruiters and stuff, you know, you gotta be able to bring something to the table that nobody else offers. And that means you have to do things that nobody else does. You know what I'm saying? So let's delete that. Sorry, I don't want to offend anybody with calling them a sandwich. I don't know if that offends anybody, but you know what I'm saying? Maybe you enjoy it. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? Dude, how did he come up with it? How did he do it? You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, that's sick. Freaking dope, man. It's all mechanical. This reminds me of like, God, this was that old, I say Will Smith movie, but like the Wild Wild West with that big like tarantula thing. Kind of reminds me of that. I think what I like about this, right? And it's, you know, we're what, hour and a half into this, so we still got a little while. It's fast. It looks complex, and it pushes you out of the form languages that you're used to, right? Like whenever you're designing, you ever come up with the same shit that you always come up with, right? All the time, right? That's it. That's what I do. It's like, you know, it's the same thing all the time. But the issue with that is you can't shift gears very easily. And the way I kind of get around that is by using, you know, for one, a shit ton of reference, because that's the name of the game. And then 2, right, it's just tracing just for a little bit, right? And maybe this first one, it's like, it's pretty, you know, it is what it is, right? But then the next one, you know, that form language is kind of downloaded into me just a little bit more. So instead of doing studies, right, instead of doing like, I guess a massive amount of like sketches to kind of get that under your belt, you know, maybe can start doing it this way, because now you're a little more efficient when it comes to your drawing process, right? Because you're gonna get an assignment and it's gonna be like, oh, hey, can you draw this centipede thing with like these World War II pieces, right? You're like, yeah, sure, you know. And then you start, you pull up your reference of your where's my reference at? You pull up your reference of your things and you start drawing these. You're like, oh, I need to download it, right? Because that's what we used to do, right? I need to get this drawing in my brain so I can, you know, brain correctly, right? You know what I'm saying? And so because of that, it takes a while, because you're going to spend probably a day reference gathering, doing whatever. But now you can do this and design all at the same time, right? The basic principle is this. Oops. The basic principle is this. You have a stick that hinges onto another hinge, and there's a stick, there's another hinge, right? Doesn't matter what's happening there. It doesn't matter what's, you know, like generally, you know, we'll figure out the cooler designs and make things look sick. But overall, right, that's it. You know, it's a very basic, simple system. But it makes sense how that would work, and you just kind of start piecing things together, right? Especially in this kind of project. You know, because we're like, it's this junkyard-y kind of approach, I'm able to kind of do that and, you know, get away with it a little more than usual, right? But I would still do things with like buildings if I needed that building to look a certain way or whatever. It's the same thing, right? And then your boy, you know, if you think I'm drawing every leg again, you are sadly mistaken. I don't play that game. Dude, check that out, bro. And they're like, dude, you drew all that in like a couple hours? And you're like, yeah, man. I spent all night on it. I did all the overtime. I worked really hard, you know. I want that gold sticker. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just do that. And then yeah, you just accept the praise. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, you drew all that? Bro. Let's go, man. Let's go. Hold up, how's that looking? Sick, right? Right? Let's go, dude. All right. That's kind of cool. Let's do that duplicate. Oops, let's not duplicate that one. Let's get this first one again. Cool. Let's do that again. Because they're legs, right? It's the same leg. It doesn't need to be super accurate. It doesn't, you know, because now that we're getting back into like the silhouette section, I just need the basic shapes to kind of make sense. And then from there, I can do the rest, right? Oh, pro tip. If you have a white layer on top that you're trying to draw with, right? If you're trying to like, you know, put a white layer on top so you can see your line drawing, lock it. Don't not lock it. If you like gambling, you know, if you like losing at life, you know, don't lock it. But I highly recommend logging it. Not speaking from experience or anything like that. But yeah, it's it'd be important. Let's see. You can get rid of some of those lines. Cool, dude. So I'm gonna save this one, right? I'm gonna save that one on top. These 3 in the back don't matter as much because it's just derived from that one. But this one right here does matter, right? So I'm gonna make sure this is clean first. But just like we did before, hold up, where's my mouse at? Reference, where's my asset sheet at? I'm gonna throw it onto this asset sheet. Maybe I'll just make a new folder or something. Wait, hold up. Drawings. Cool. Drawings. Bro. Okay. Cool, right? Turn it off. I don't need it. I don't always need it, right? I'll do this into paintings. Turn that off, and we are off to the races, dude. All right, let's go. That's that. Now that I have it on a separate layer, I have it like saved out. I can be a little more dangerous with it and just start merging down, right? Pretty simple. So I want to make these front ones different, right? Because, you know, there's going to be a bunch of the same legs, right? Which is cool. And then I want like the front one that kind of like, I don't know, its hands versus its legs, right? Whatever. If centipedes have hands, right? I want to make that a little bit different, right? Because I don't want to be exactly the same. It needs to be the same form language, that's for sure. But I don't want it to be exactly the same. Just like, I think crab legs, right? Or crabs, where there's like the back legs look one way and then the pincer arms look another. You know what I'm saying. Do we have anything that could work? Let's see now. I don't think I do. How's it in the folder? What should this be? Yeah, I'll take this one. That one's kind of cool. Maybe I'll kind of keep a lot of this stuff and make sure maybe it connects a little bit different or something like that, right? Let's go. Boom. Bro, you know what I'm saying, man? You know what I'm saying, dude. All right, I need to do a couple things, right? I need to, for one, this perspective is kind of weird. It's a side view. I'm looking for more of a 3/4. So, hold up. Copy that again. Turn that off. I need that 3/4 view first, or that hinge section to look semi correct. I can fix it later, but you know, why do it in post, right? All right. So. I feel bad for anybody like excited to see me draw. It went from like, wow, Kenny's gonna draw for the first time to, oh, it's the same old shit that he always does. I hope this is helping though. I think it is good to kind of see how it operates, like how somebody that generally paints a lot kind of goes about some of these things. So if it's helpful, let me know. If it's not, I'll stop now and forever be in shame. Cool. Yeah, let's do something like that. Probably stop it like right here. That's cool. That lever's kind of sick. It is funny though, in my classes, it's always like, especially like some of my more foundation classes where we're just kind of like just like drawing, like actual drawing, right? We're like, just, you know, hey, here's the foundations, get good at it. And then all of a sudden, like, you watch this demo of me like just tracing my ass off and duplicating things. But you know, don't tell anybody, it's a secret. As I stream it live for anybody to watch. Exactly, best tracer. All right, that's cool. That's good enough. All right, let's turn that off. So that's gonna be like, I don't know, maybe some sort of like supporting hinge right here. Boom. And because I'm gonna do this dirty trick of duplicate, that's gonna help it look more like it's in 3/4 view versus like the side view that I was currently at. So I'll turn that off. I'm gonna line this up to where it's a little bit closer to what I need. I'll probably stop barrel like right there. Yeah, I'll do that. There you go. Sick. That's how we do it. That's funny. I was having a conversation with one of my friends the other day. Fuck, it was yesterday, and we're talking about like job applications and just talking about like what other studios and stuff are like looking for and stuff. And what we've found is like no one cares about our line drawing skills. Like it's funny because like, you know, it's something that we need to know, but like for whatever reason, every time you show them, like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, like every time I show a line drawing, I'm like, they're like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's great, man. What else you got? You know what I mean? But then you show the painting, they're like, oh shit, like that's dope, dude. You know? And it's such a funny thing because, you know, we're always taught like, oh yeah, you know, get good at drawing, get good at this and that. And, you know, it's such a, especially nowadays when everybody can basically use 3D to almost a photoreal process. Right? You know, most applicants are able to do that, right? You know, whether you need to or not, yeah, it's debatable. But I will say there's a lot of 3D modelers out there, or 3D concept artists out there, right? And they're starting to be, I guess, less and less enamored by, I guess, your foundational skills. And we were talking about it because he was like, oh yeah, you know, it's not really necessary, or, you know, you don't really need to know how to draw as much anymore. I was like, technically, I mean, you know, I guess you could maybe get away with it for a little bit, right? Where it's like maybe your initial job might allow you to, I guess, kind of get by without drawing as much, especially at the junior level, right? Because you're probably going to be doing more turnarounds and just various things, right? Like more 3D heavy things, or 3D things that are geared more towards 3D stuff, right? Like the strengths are there, right? And so we were talking about it. I was like, well, you know, like I paint a lot, right? And I don't really show that many drawings, but it doesn't mean that you can't tell that I can draw. You know what I'm saying? Like, because when you see the painting, to be able to do that painting, general, like this, especially the perspective heavy or the vehicle heavy ones or whatever, you know, there's a level of drawing that needs to be accomplished, right? I'm not drawing with line like I am now, but there is a level of like, yeah, I am drawing. I'm just doing it with values, right? Because the construction, the forms, the understanding of dimension and all that stuff, you know, kind of comes through in the painting. Right? You're not looking at one of my city drawings and being like, oh, or city paintings, and like, oh, he can't draw worth a shit. You know, it's like, no, you can see the foundation skills. And I think like that is super important to kind of understand about like, I guess doing a lot of the 3D stuff, because eventually, right, unless you're 3D modeling the whole thing, which, you know, I guess that's a direction you can go, right? But unless you're doing the whole thing, you're gonna have to touch it eventually. You're gonna have to do something to it, right? You're gonna have to paint on top. You're gonna have to add to it, whatever it is. You will have to make this painting look good, right? And I think it's important to understand that, you know, it's gonna really highlight your ability or lack thereof, right? Where it's like, you know, you're gonna see that this person can't draw very well because they're like, oh yeah, it's clear that where the model starts and where his painting starts, right? Or his or her. And you know, it's just an interesting thing where when we're talking to clients, they don't really care about your line drawings at all. Like they're mostly looking for paintings, to be honest. They're like, oh yeah, you know, I want to see some of the cool stuff, because that's what they want. But that foundation really does become important in the back end. And it's like, it's interesting seeing that switch, because I think whenever I was applying and stuff, when I first started, it was a lot of like, oh yeah, you know, do you have any line drawings to show us? Do you have any, like, you know, foundational things? And that's starting to become less and less of it. I'm not saying it never happens, right? But it is less and less of a thing. You know what I'm saying? So, hi Mai, how's it going? Sorry, that was one of the comments for those listening and like what the hell is that? So. Daha says, I feel like you need a decent foundation skills to be able to trace well, knowing what to emphasize and what not to. Yeah, that's exactly it, right? It's like, if you don't know how to draw, right, tracing doesn't work. Just because it's funny because like once you're able to draw, you're like, I don't need to trace anymore. But there's I guess there's an inherent skill in, I guess, learning how to identify and kind of pull things out and make this mess of lines make sense, right? Like, every once in a while you see me do this kind of baseline drawing where I'm like, oh, everything's about the same. And then I'll kind of go in with this thicker brush just to kind of make things pop just a little bit more, emphasize certain aspects. And yeah, that does come from more foundation skills, right? So you're absolutely right on that one. Not that this line drawing is like the best we've ever seen. Like I said, it's like a medium plus, maybe a medium level drawing, just because I am going to be turning this into a model, so I don't really need I don't need this to be 100% like the best thing we've ever seen, right? So I'm going to kind of hint at some hinge back here. Cool. All right. You guys have any questions? I'd love to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. I know, like, I'm just rambling half the time, so But if you guys have any questions, like about anything, even maybe like things that you heard at Lightbox, like it's been a week, so, or been an extra week compared to usual. So I'd definitely love to hear some of your experiences and maybe something that you learned, or maybe something that maybe you missed out on. I think things that just general things. So. Oh, dude, yeah, don't draw twice. If you're drawing twice, stop it. This is how you go celebrate Halloween. This is how you go do things with your family. You just duplicate. If your loved one's like figuring out where you're at, and you're like, I'm drawing all day, it's your fault because you're not duplicating things. That's messed up. But yeah. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Cool. All right, legs established, right? I think that's cool. I'm gonna leave this one alone for now because I need to draw the head on top of that, but we'll get there. Let's see. Boom. All right, what else we got? So I did the leg, right? Because I did feel that was pretty important. That was a very pivotal part in this design, just because I needed that to look cool, because that was one of the more noticeable things, because the body itself is just like shells, right? Just like exoskeleton or shells, right? And so you just kind of see these like interlocking plates, but the mechanical part is like, I want to kind of keep that underneath, and you'll kind of see it all like in these kind of areas here. So I really want to make sure that all this kind of is designed well, and it's what I was thinking, and at the very least, it's like kind of what I want, right? And now from here, I just need to kind of figure out like this one section plus that plate. Once I do that, all this is done. Like this literally all the way up to there is done. And I just need to do that one little tip there, right? So the hell do I do? So let's see. I didn't plan this ahead of time either. Like if you're thinking like, oh yeah, he's making all, like he's already did this sketch. Like I didn't. I'm like figuring it out right now. Just because like for one, I'm not that prepared. But two, it's cool seeing like, I guess, how all this comes together, because you could do like that front plate. Nah, that's too, I don't want this nose thing there. So that's kind of lame. But like some of these, like it's like some of these tank parts, that's kind of why I pulled it. Like that head part, maybe I could like flip it or something. That could be kind of cool. Dude. Yeah, let's try that. Does this head work? No, that might not work. How's that head? Does that work? That's too sideways. I think the other one's better. Let's see. Bro. Dude. That's what I'm saying, man. Or maybe it did work the other way. Is that smart? Is that the pro move that we need to do? Nah, it looks dumb, dude. Right? I don't know. Let's see. We'll commit for a second. It's just tracing, right? It's the worst that can happen. I don't need the barrel. I don't want the barrel there. What should we do? This head's kind of weird because like what I want to do, right? Like I think the reason I'm struggling with this because I can make up a head, right? I could definitely do that. But I want this to feel like it's a bunch of parts that are kind of like pulled together, right? Like some sort of spirit. For those that are new, the prompt is right after World War II, 100 years later, right? These spirits from people that passed away came back and they started inhabiting these old parts that are just laying around, right? Things that are just in fields or whatever. And they're kind of creating these like monsters, right? Like not monsters, but just these creatures. And they're not, I don't want it to feel inherently bad. Maybe some are, maybe some aren't, right? Like if you've ever played Pokemon, right? There's not like, they're not all inherently good or bad. There's some that are cuter than others, but overall, like they're just what they are. They're just creatures living around. It's like, it's like a deer walking around, right? And so I want it to feel like it inhabits some of these mechanical parts. Maybe there's this is a particularly big one because maybe there's like a graveyard of these like a junkyard of these mechanical parts kind of laying around, or maybe it's like in the water or something, and then all of a sudden it just kind of pulls itself together. That could be kind of cool, but trying to figure that out. That thing's kind of cool though. I saw it over here. Let's see. Let's see here. Say, Michael D says always valuable to watch you work, and yeah, thanks, dude. It's hopefully people like understand that like it's not so serious, right? It's not so like, it's not such a critical thing to be like, oh, I never trace, or I do everything clean. It's like no one is gonna look at your design and be like, oh my god, you stole that. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not even like I'm using the full piece, I'm just like kind of being inspired by and then going from there. So, I kind of want to show that. I want to show how loose and how free you can actually be with a lot of these things, just because it's like, it's not that serious, man. It's just, we're just drawing. We're just seeing what happens, But yeah, hopefully it's helping a lot of people. I feel like this is why we do it, right? This is the reason I could just do this on my own, because I do this on my own, right? But I do feel like it helps just to kind of see how I would actually approach things as a professional, right? Somebody that does this for a living, right? But yeah. Finn Down says, would you use this sketch bashing process for sleeker, more minimalist designs? Oh, dude, absolutely, man. But you got to remember, right? It's all you got to do is think about, okay, so what is sleeker, more minimal, right? You can take pieces from things like, but the thing to remember, right? The overarching idea is I didn't start from scratch, right? The silhouette that I pulled from, I designed myself, right? I just kind of put in a shape there and I'm like roughly following it. But the shape was already established by me, right? I didn't, I'm not like just taking part of a boat and then just drawing and then kind of adding to it. I established the overall shape, and basically whatever you do inside of that, right, the details, right, it doesn't really matter. Not that it doesn't matter, but it's like just for the initial sketch, it's not really as important, because the initial shape, as long as you follow it, as long as it kind of matches what we're talking about here, you'll probably be in the ballpark, and that's what we're looking for, right? So that's why this is okay. That's why this is a little more fluid than you might kind of believe, just because I already designed it. I already did the big shape, right? Now I'm thinking medium and small, and it's a little bit easier to kind of function like that. So oops, there it is. Where is my? Okay, that's that gun. I'll leave that alone. Boom. I'll start designing this new one. Sick. Let's go. So I want like, because part of me, right, it's like, it's not, I don't want this to be a scary thing. I don't want this to be something that's like, oh wow, it's this creature that's gonna kill you, whatever. I just want this thing to be like, oh, that's a thing that lives here. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, you're intruding on his habitat. You know what I'm saying? And so with that, I just want this to kind of be a more neutral thing. Like it can get mad, it'll probably fuck you up, but like, you know, overall it's like, it's pretty, I don't know, neutral, right? Because even like in like Pokemon itself, right? There's like, you know, those trainers, those like, you know, hotshot trainers. They're all like in the anime specifically. There's like our Pikachu, right? The one that's like, he's all nice and friendly. He's all cool. And then there's like that asshole character, and he's always like, his Pikachu always has an attitude or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it's always like, it's always just it's just some asshole that's shaped like a Pikachu or whatever. And you know, we can kind of go either way with this, and I don't want this to kind of fully encompass a personality just yet. I have a plan for that in one of the other prop designs that we're gonna do, so we'll get there. But I think for now it's like, I just want this to be a natural creature in his world. He's not good or bad, he just does a thing, right? Jack Chu says, the legs remind me of protractors. Yeah, dude. You know, that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm glad you caught that client of mine. You know, see what I did there? This is how we operate. This is like what I was saying earlier with Riley. Like, don't get in the way of other people's imaginations. You know, like let them see things. And like whenever I'm like talking to a client and they see my work, or they're like, "Oh wow, that's really cool, dude. How'd you think of that?" And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I didn't think of that at all. You did. But I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I just combined some things here. And I was like, you know, because if they like it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you were thinking. It doesn't matter what you had planned. It doesn't matter what's going on. All that matters is they like it, and you're gonna do more of that, right? Because they're the ones putting down money for this thing, right? So. Yeah, things to remember. I want these like these screws. I think these like these bolts, these rivets, are like very telling of like this era, right? Like, you know, showing these showing these like moments where I can kind of show all that. Because if I went a little too sci-fi with it or whatever, and it kind of looked seamless or whatever, it probably wouldn't be as effective, right? But because I have this these bolts, it can kind of like, I don't know, just everything kind of makes sense. That form language is such a big part of that form language that we need to show it, right? So let's see. That was dumb. Maybe like it's like, how do I create eyes, right? Because I'm looking at this thing, right? I'm just trying to figure out, how do I create this? How do I allow this to emote? Because I saw these two things, these little like, you know, these parts of the, you know, whatever this thing is, this holder for the anti-air turret. But I was like, I like the mandible look of this. It looks like, you know, like bug mouth, right? And so now I'm trying to figure out how to make this thing work. And there's things like, whenever I'm designing, I don't like to just, I guess, be paralyzed with like how all of these pieces kind of fit together, right? Like, cause you know, you can be like, oh, well, you know, the mouth part works, but the eyes don't, right? It's like, we'll make it work. We'll figure it out. You know, we'll make something happen. But that initial step of like just getting something in there first, and then we'll figure out the rest, you know? Because maybe I can just kind of start tracing a lot of this stuff now. Not tracing this stuff, but tracing my original shape, or get something like roughly kind of similar. Because now that we have pieces that are, let's say, most of the way there, right? Where it's like, you know, you can kind of see where the inspiration's coming from, right? We're getting to this point to where it almost doesn't matter what happens inside of here, right? Because as long as you sort of maintain that general idea, right, you're probably gonna be pretty close. Yes, we're gonna have to figure that out a little bit later, but that's future Kenny's problem, not present Kenny's problem, right? Let's see. Because the reason I'm like very lax about some of the design things happening here is because a lot of this stuff, you know, it's gonna take a couple passes to figure out. And this is the first sketch, technically speaking. So I don't need to worry about that so much. You know what I mean? Like it's not as crucial that I get this thing 100% kind of tuned out, because I just need, like I was saying before with the paintings, right? We need 10, 20, 30% of an idea, right? Not that much. And then from there we can figure out the rest and make that look sick, right? But for now it's like, dude, just get something on the page. If you don't like it, maybe one of the other sketches will kind of focus on something different, you know? You'll see it next week once when I come back with all my sketches and stuff like that. But for now, it's like, this is the first pass. We'll just see how this goes, and then we'll go from there. Daha says, I have a very line-heavy portfolio these days, and at Lightbox, during my port reviews, I was asked for paintings and lots of color. Very different from a few years ago. So interesting to see how things are changing. Yeah, you know, I think it's because painting's kind of becoming that foundational skill, right? Because before it was like we need to see, like I think my first portfolio reviews when I first started was, oh, we want to see line drawings, we want to see layouts, we want to see, you know, like graphite type things, or just black and white lines, you know, more foundation things like that. And then, you know, I've been noticing lately, right, it's starting to shift where it's like, oh, do you have any color paintings? And then 3D. 3D's the cool thing, or the skill that they need to see from you, right? And there's been a lot of that. You know, not every studio is like that, right? So some studios, like animation in particular, is kind of, I would say, a little bit more foundationally driven, right? Like they're a little more okay with it. Or they kind of look for that a little bit more, because that's just what we do. But games in particular, yeah, they're looking for a lot of I guess 3D and like paintings and stuff, because, you know, that's just what they do, right? It's not, and oftentimes it's not really like, you know, like their choice. It's just the way that the studio works, and they need to know that you can work like them. You know what I mean? Like, because when you go to that studio, they're gonna be like, oh, hey, can you do a model for us? Can you do this thing or whatever? And, you know, you gotta tell them like either yes you can or no you can't, right? And if it's no, then it's like, well, you don't really fit in our pipeline, so we can't really hire you. You know what I mean? So that's something that I've been noticing a lot. But yeah, I mean, that's part of the job, right? That's why, you know, for everybody, like whenever I'm asking, when I first meet a lot of people, I usually ask, not at cocktail parties, but like in class, I'm always like, hey, you know, what studio do you want to work for? Because it's important. It really is. If you don't know, start figuring that out, because you can do so many things under the sun, right? You can learn how to model, you can learn how to do color keys, you can do layouts, you do whatever. But at the end of the day, you know, you have to have a skill that this studio is looking for. If you can do that, you're hireable. If you can't, then, you know, you're not really hireable, right? They can't hire you because they don't have a job for you. You know what I'm saying? So, oh, this head looks like dog shit, dude. Let's see. See if I get any more inspiration. The cool part is, though, I do have something happening, which is nice. And all I gotta do is be creative. Let's see. What's happening? Did that not transfer over? Oop. I guess it doesn't want to. So it won't allow me to. There it is. Cool. Let's see. Bro, let's go. All right, hold up. Let's do that. Delete these pieces. I don't need all that. All right. I'm not gonna warp some of these so it like feels like it's bending a little more, because I want this to feel like closed off. I don't want it to be like an open, like gaping thing. I want it to kind of feel like there's, I don't know, something there. And I'm just trying to find some language to help me out, right? Something like that. kind of might help that bit better. Who knows? We'll find out in a second. The cool part about this, what I like, what I'm enjoying is I'm able to warp things pretty well because I guess the design itself doesn't need it doesn't have to, I guess, be fully in perspective, right? Because this is a very organic object, or an object that moves and bends in very organic perspectives, right? So I don't need to worry too much about my general curves and stuff, right? Pieces of metal can bend, things can change, whatever it is. But I do have to do it in certain parts, right? Just like how you kind of saw me doing for the guns and stuff, making sure my perspective lines up, because that's important there, because the whole leg needs to be structurally sound. But some of this stuff, it can be like, you know, warped around. I could do whatever with it, and it'd probably look kind of close, right? So I'm just gonna draw some of these interior shapes, try to make it feel like there's more going on. And we'll, you know, future Kenny will figure that out, right? Let's go. What's we got here? That's kind of cool. And the cool part about this is like these inside shapes. Oh, dude, it's like, it doesn't even matter, man. It just does itself, bro. You just like make it, just kind of put it in there and it looks like a thing, right? And you're good. Because, like I said before, that's future Kenny's problem. It's not my problem. You can do the gangster move and be like, good luck, modelers. Figure that shit out. Don't do that. That's how you get people to hate you. That's kind of cool. Scribble inside, make it seem like it's kind of cool, right? Pretty spiffy. These panels look kind of like normal, so I'm gonna beat them up just a little bit. Same with these right here. Boom. Michi said, Evil Kenny be like, good luck modelers. Yeah, dude, that's, if you don't like your modeler, just leave things ambiguous. Can't promise you you'll ever get hired again, but you can do it. You'll win the battle, but I don't know if you'll win that war, but the battle will be won. That's kind of cool, right? Pretty sick. Let's see if I can make this window. It looks like a window, which I don't want it to. I think it's because I can see through some of it, or it feels like I can see through some of it. I want that to be like maybe a panel with maybe bullet holes or something. Maybe I could, dude, like some of that. Sick. Hold up. Maybe it's like four-eyed. It's like holes. It's like rust holes kind of thing. That'd be kind of cool. Dope. Let's roll with this. I'm gonna act like this is the best design I've ever seen, because we gotta move on. It's 9 o'clock, baby. We got most of this drawing left to do. Let's see. Yeah, future Kenny be like, don't care. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna be like, this is future Kenny's problem, and then like future Kenny's be like, yeah, it doesn't matter. I'll just model it out. I'll figure it out later. Figure it out in post. You know what I mean? That is the cool part about I would say working with strong like modelers, like, you know, very, very high level modelers, is that, you know, you'll just give them something, dude, they figure it out, man. They figure it out and they make it better. They're like, and because like, you know, our job, if you think about it in a, I guess in a percentage setting, right? We figure out a bulk of the work, right? Where it's like, you know, most of this is figured out by us. Where you're like, oh, that's pretty cool, you know, great, you know, awesome. It's it looks great, right? You know, and then they go in, they figure out the materials, like the cut lines and all, like they just kind of one up everything, you know, and it's freaking sick what they can do. So definitely modelers are dope. Cause I'll do some models, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Or I'll do some designs, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. But then like it'll come back from whoever, right? Whoever was, you know, supposed to be handling this thing. And I'm like, dude, that's way better than what I had. Forgot to add this thing back in. Erase that, get some overlap in there. Cause you know, we're not chumps. Let's see. Let's do something like that. Indicate. That's right, baby. All right. What else we got? We got the head, merge that down. I'm gonna get this, now that we're like getting into like the bigger areas of rest, I'm gonna start kind of indicating, like getting some of these panels involved. Because now it's like the hardcore like mechanical sections are done. Like I was saying earlier, a lot of this stuff is like paneling where, you know, it's an exoskeleton, it's areas of rest. So it's not really that important that, that I get it like 1000%, you know, I guess, fully designed out just yet. It's just important that I kind of get it close, right? Boom. Pro tip, if you're having a hard time drawing a line, just draw it on a separate layer and then warp it. There's, you know, I'll control Z a couple times, but after like 3 of them, like, yeah, fuck that. I'm just gonna do something more productive with my life and just warp it. You got Photoshop, right? Cool. So I want this section to maybe like this pipe thing in the original like photo. So maybe go down this way to connect here. Maybe it's like an actuator or something. Maybe it's like, or maybe it's like here. So like right there, you know? So I'm gonna kind of make that adjustment now. So it looks like it used to be something, and then it's like, it all kind of makes sense if you like understand what all this stuff is. Boom. Dude. Let's go. All right, hold up. If you come out of this thinking that Kenny is like a dirty cheat, you're absolutely right. That is the correct conclusion to come to. Why draw, man? Why make it hard on yourself? You know what I'm saying? Because they're gonna look at it and be like, "Oh, that's cool, man," and then that's it. Be like, "Dope." You kind of move on, and then you know, whether you drew it from scratch or whether you know, did whatever, it's I don't say it's not gonna matter, but it's just like no one's gonna know. You get the pride of saying you did. And I guess that's kind of cool, right? But is it that cool? Hanging out with my cat's pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would much rather do that than slave away at like making sure this painting or this drawing looks sick. My cat needs me, dude. You know what I'm saying? It's like I can't, there's nothing I can do about that. Cool. I think it's like looser inside here because it doesn't really matter. Not that it doesn't matter. I'm saying a lot of this doesn't matter, but I am pretty detail oriented. I'm just, you know, we're on a time constraint here. Sick. All right. Cool. So we have some cool things happening, and I need some more details. I need some things. This is kind of when shenanigans start to happen, right? So duplicate this line. I have this, right? And I'm just gonna find orientations where it's like, oh, that kind of works. And then just shrink it down. Make some of that look good. Bam. Delete that. Or not delete it, mask it out. Hard round. And you're like, dude, you drew all that? And I'm like, bro, that's why you pay me, man. That's what I do, dude. It's a yes. So you don't need all that. That's kind of weird. Maybe some of this might work. Maybe some of it might not. Who knows? Let's see. Boom. So you guys know how I was like, oh yeah, just get your painting and then like duplicate it around, stamp it around, and then like finish off the painting that way. It's the same motherfucker, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the same guy. You know, you don't have to, or you can do it by hand, and everyone will be proud of you. Let's see. So I want this, because I need this bottom section. This part here, like, you know, the under shell, like this is the top, this is the bottom. I want that to feel super complex, where it's like there's just layers of like machinery and stuff like that all underneath, and this top half is going to be the simpler half. And so I just kind of like started that. I just want to kind of see if I can get some of that to work kind of well. I don't know how well it's working right now, but we'll see what happens. Let's see now. Maybe I should simplify it. Who knows? Right? Who knows? Times at 916. We're rolling. What if there's another panel right here? That's cool. I dig that. Same panel we have here, just going like sideways or going this way. Boom, boom, boom. There's like overlaps there. The panels are kind of like clipping over. I'm just imagining like this thing walking, you hear these panels kind of slipping and sliding against each other, and it's like very rusty and very like mechanical. That'd be sick, dude. All right, let's see what else we got. Maybe I can show more of this ribbing by like basically these lines right there that I'm doing. Maybe I could do something like that over here, where it's like you get like those screws. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And like I said, right, medium quality painting or medium quality drawing. We're not really going for the top of the drawings, you know, charts, right? We're just looking for like just something that's like, oh, that's kind of cool. Because we'll clean this up. We have other passes. We have other things we can do. There's like a hole in here. There's mechanics. I don't know. Boom. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Right. Dots, screws, bolts, things. Sick. What else we got? Oh, I have my asset sheet. Where's that at? There it is. Still behind like. God. Let's grab this. Let's bring that back because I want that this hinge, this leg right here. I wasn't sure how much of it I would see, but I do kind of want it back. I'll probably put it like right there because I need it to be kind of visible, but like not super visible. Right there. Dope. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Easy, dude. Nope, don't need that piece. Let's grab this. I need that leg one more time back here for the win. Let's see. Something like that. Because like now, what I'm doing here is now I'm trying to establish the forms, right? I'm trying to make sure that every time you see something repeat, it like makes sense, right? You're like, oh, okay. It like, I'm using this perspective to help me out where if you check this shit out. So we have, you know, leg, right? Leg, and they're sizing smaller as you go back in space. But then like we have this shell here that's kind of going like that. Cool, right? That's the perspective that I need. And now for that bottom side, even though the legs might be slightly different, you know, from front to back or whatever, the spot that they connect is probably all going to be within the same gesture line that kind of follows that perspective back, right? And it's these little things that really do kind of go a long way. And you don't want to get in the way of that. You can do a lot of, you know, random things in like the recesses and various things like that. But you do want to make sure that there's still structure there, right? Because if you don't have structure, you don't have a drawing, because, you know, that's how it works. So, you know, just find areas like that. Find things that you can do to make sure that it kind of repeats as much as possible, right? Because just like what I was talking about with a lot of the painting stuff, you just want to feed to the audience little details. It's like, oh, yeah, that's that thing. That's this thing. You know, it's like, you know, the audience isn't stupid. They understand what they're looking at, generally speaking. And so with that in mind, right, just plant evidence. You know what I mean? You're trying to just put things in places so they understand it just a little bit better, right? When you see repeating parts, generally speaking, it gives you a lot of perspective, right? So, pro tip of the day. Cool. Silhouette breaks. Maybe there's a second leg back there, or, you know, there's other legs back there. That maybe this one's a little bit higher since the ground plane, like from this section right there to this section, right, is higher. So maybe that shoulder kind of pops up a bit more. You know, things like that. Just physics, right? Just little things, and it can help kind of separate this area a bit. Like, because I'm looking for gaps like that, right? And I'm looking for silhouette pokes, things to kind of identify in this drawing. That way, you know, when you see it in the darker kind of view that we have here, right, you'll still know what it is, you know. Cool. What do we got? All right, guys. Who's got questions? Who's got something? You guys are quiet today. Boom. Make that gap right there. Like it's like back there. That's kind of cool. Cool. Let's see. Dun-dun-dun. I need to duplicate this, flip it. See what happens when I do some of this stuff. What's my favorite cheese? Bro, it's the best question you got. All right, man. What's my favorite cheese? You know, mozzarella's pretty good. You know, very, very boring answer. But the reason I say that is because it's like one of the most versatile ones. You know what I mean? Like, you put it in a lot of different dishes and you'd probably be okay. Like from sandwiches to pizza to whatever. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would pick. There's this Tom Segura joke that he was talking about. What's this guy? What was his name? It's one of the famous 90s actors or 80s actors. He was talking about how weird he was, and his favorite cheese was Havarti. I keep thinking of that every time I think of like just cheese in general.
Hey, Kenny.
Yo, what's up, dog?
So when we're working on our designs from our keyframes, should we do like sort of like what you're doing here is take the like the view from the shot and then just do a bunch of different line drawings or paintings over the top of it to get like multiple options?
What I would recommend, it doesn't have to be line drawing specifically, right? It just basically all we're looking for is I guess a more attention on the design phase is really what this is about, right? You can do it as in line work, you can do this in modeling, you can do this however, painting as well. But yeah, what I do recommend though is figure this out in view, right? That's one of the bigger things, just because for one, it helps you finish off your drawing, right? It helps you kind of establish your keyframe. You know what I mean? Like if it's in shot, just because I'm literally just gonna paint this out one of these days, and then I'm gonna drop it into here. So I should be pretty close, right? And also, you know, this shot is meant to be the view that you kind of discover this thing in, right? Or it's supposed to be like, it's supposed to be, I guess, the view that you encounter this creature. In my case, in your case, it could be like the way you run through the level, right? Because that's the mentality that we were doing when we designed these shots. We were designing them based off of an experience. And so if you design in this view, you know, you're gonna have your asset ready by the end. By the time you pick your final drawing or painting, whatever, you're gonna have a good asset that you can just drop in and just recomposite a little bit, and you should be at least most of the way there. And then you just kind of clean up the rest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Ian says, are you going to incorporate this to the previous painting? I am, right? So right now, right, just like what I was just talking about, you know, this is just me kind of just sketching, right? I'm just kind of messing with things. I'm just kind of thinking about possible solutions, right? Because the painting itself, you know, if you zoom in, right, it's, you know, I just made this one little gun piece right there, and then I duplicated it around, and then I just made like some cut lines for the shells, right? Nothing really that impressive. But as I'm figuring out this design, I'm trying to experiment and figure things out. I'm going to then paint this up eventually, right? I think I'm going to model it first, but I'm going to paint it up eventually, and then just be able to drop it right in, right? So it shouldn't be that weird of a integration. It should be basically one to one, well, assuming I don't change things too much, right? So, all right, what else we got? Let's see. Some of this drawing back here is going to go a little simpler. So something that I like to do, right? Because I have the first kind of initial sections established pretty well. A lot of these back sections, they don't really need that much attention, just because, you know, it's more of the same. Generally speaking, you're going to be able to tell like, oh, that's this thing, that's that thing, you know, whatever. Because I have the first sections, I have all of this kind of figured out, right, in a relatively clean way. There's some things that could be better, but it's pretty close, right? And so now all I got to do is just kind of reinforce the idea that like, oh, it keeps going. It's more of the same, right? And so just remember that if you have like pieces that kind of like repeat over and over again like that, you know, just you can kind of use that to your advantage, right? You can allow your design to kind of tell itself, right? You don't need the whole thing, you know, because I mean it's a centipede, man. You know what I'm saying? Boom. So my drawing is kind of weird because the painting itself is a little bit off to where it's a little thick in that middle section, which is kind of weird. But as you flatten it out like this, right, it starts to be, I'm kind of running into, I guess, I don't say physics errors, but just, you know, illusions that I kind of did while I was painting. So now what I'm trying to do here is scale it up to kind of fit a little bit better in this scene to make sure that everything kind of goes according to plan. And then from there, it's basically, you know, basically ready. So we're not too far off. Let's see what else we got here. And now like I can, you know, now that like we kind of see the bottom, this is the bottom side here, and it's kind of wrapping across, you know, I can have some of these other legs kind of coming through there, and you can kind of start seeing that other side. Because a big problem I had with this was that I couldn't see, I noticed this like later, but I couldn't see the other side. So if I were like to kind of map that out a little bit, like something like this, and then get rid of some of those legs or where those mechanical legs would show, I kind of grab this color and then create that silhouette shape. And it kind of just reinforces that, that idea just a bit further. But, you know, I don't need to do that in the painting right now, but I am going to do that in the drawing. So it at least kind of makes sense, right? And because I have the mechanical leg already, I don't need to worry about drawing that again because you only see part of it. So, right? Smart. Look at that, dude. And just remember, like, as we're doing this, like, I'm doing a lot of like tricks and a lot of just, you know, just don't want to say shady, but you know what I mean? Like it's not exactly the most traditional way to go about things. But that's the thing. It's like we're not operating in a very traditional kind of it never occurred. It doesn't really matter that you're kind of using these tricks, because at the end of the day, we'll clean it up. You know what I mean? It gets us kind of most of the way there. And then now all I have to do is take this white layer, right? Let's do like that, duplicate it again and trace on top of that. Now I'm most of the way there, right? Because now you can clean things up, you can refine things or whatever. But this initial concepting phase, right? We don't need to be so precious with like, the foundation skills. You know how to draw. Generally speaking, if you're pretty good at your foundations or whatever it is, right? Generally speaking, you're probably going to be pretty good. So now all you really got to do is design more efficiently. And I'm maintaining the same form language. I'm maintaining a lot of like the kind of key things that need to happen, but I'm being quicker about it, right? Because we're also on a stream, so I want to be at least conscious of people's time here. Actually, instead of drawing this out, I'm actually gonna I think it's too close. I need a better fall off on that, but that's okay. Do something like this. Grab that, boom, cut it out. Bro, dude. And then you take credit. That's all it is. That's all it is. Maybe I'll just have like some sort of paneling down here. So it like looks like it kind of goes back, and we'll just kind of leave that at that. We'll figure out that bottom side in a bit as we're kind of going, but it's not important right now. What is important though is that it looks mostly there, right? Pretty sick, dude. Ian said, it never occurred to me to work this way. This is so efficient. I mean, this is how we work in, this is like something I learned while photo bashing. And it's funny because basically everything I learned, like everything that I'm like doing for demos / teaching class, it's all photo bashing techniques. It's just realizing that you don't have to be photo bashing to still use the same technique, right? It was interesting because for a long time I was very efficient at photo bashing, right? I was like, I started in games and film, so I was very adept to, I mean, whether I was good or not, who knows? But I was very okay at photo bashing. And then when I had to go paint things, it kind of like messed me up. I was like, dude, I'm really bad at this. It was like very odd because I was like, man, why are my concepts coming out so different from medium to medium, right? And I was like, wait, why don't I just try doing the same thing over and over again, right? Try the same process. And all you got to think about is, well, how does this transfer over, right? In a photo bashing process, you would just cut the piece out, paste it in, and call it a day, right? And that's pretty easy to understand. But now it's like, well, you have a line drawing, so you can't really do that, but you can, it's like, you just got to be a little creative about it. And you'll get, at the very least, pretty close. And then from there, you can kind of do the rest, right? But that's where your foundations come in, right? The ability to do the rest is the hard part. You can bash things in, but if you're not good at drawing, or, you can bash things in and trace it, but if you're not good at drawing, it doesn't really help you, right? It just kind of proves that you're just not good at drawing, because we'll be able to see it, right? Because a lot of the things that are happening, the kind of foundational things, they kind of get overlooked when you're doing a process like this. But we know that that's definitely part of the the important part. So let's see now. So these back legs, they're like a little big, right? I don't like how long that thing is. Maybe these barrels can kind of shorten. Do something like that. Oops. Let's see, hold up. Bro. All right, something like that. And it's cool too because like I think something that really kind of resonated with me whenever I first started, like I guess started getting into like a higher level, right? Not that I'm like super high, but just I was getting better from like I guess student level, right? It was a lot of like realizing that there's a difference between fine art and concept art, right? There's a big difference between, you know, having to, I guess, show every single step in a very clean way versus just trying to get the idea across. Cause that's all we're doing, right? We're just getting the idea across. It doesn't really matter how clean some of this stuff is. When you actually zoom in, right, you can kind of see that it's not that clean, right? But that's not the point. The point is, you know what you're looking at this point, right? It's like, it's not the same level that we had here. There's more information. And I can take this further, and I'm going to. But it's like, you know, kind of working, you know? And kind of working is great. Because 10% of an idea is better than 0% of an idea, right? So, delete some of that shit. All right. Boom. G says, your eyes do be scary sometimes though, Kenny. Analytic mode. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think, so for those that don't know, he took a mentorship with me and I was very critical about a lot of things, which, I mean, that's, you know, that's how we are. But, you know, it's, I think like once because the reason that we learn these fundamental skills, right? These techniques is because we need that analytical eye, right? Because, you know, if you don't have a good eye, then you can't see what's good or bad, right? You know what I mean? And so for me, the foundation skills of drawing and painting, right, is how you kind of train that eye to see better. You know, if you can see better, you can draw better, or you can paint better. And that's the important part. That's what really makes like someone really good, the ability to see. Because, you know, your hands are one thing, right? But the ability to kind of notice a lot of these steps is how you just kind of start leveling up. So I think something that always not freaked me out, but like it just wasn't really a good feeling is whenever I would do something and I couldn't tell why something was off. You know what I mean? Like you're like, something's wrong. I don't know why. I don't know what's wrong with this. I don't know what's going on. And, you know, your teacher would come up or whoever, right, would be like, oh yeah, just fix that. Just do this thing. Just do that one little thing, right? Just add these little bits. And it was always crazy because it's like, what the hell? Like 10 seconds and they already knew. And I've been racking my head on this for the past 7 days or whatever, right? And I mean, that's the difference. That's why some of these artists are who they are, because, you know, their ability to analyze and you know, break things down and know where things go wrong really is the skill. That's the skill you want. Above anything else, it's the skill to analyze that really makes I guess an artist very good. You know what I'm saying? So, boom. Let's see. Let's erase that. I'm always like, these legs, it's really hard because I just need overlaps. I need parts of it to like line up and parts of it to like overlap kind of weirdly, right? Or not weirdly, but in an appealing way that feels very natural, right? Like this is working a little bit better because before it just, you know, I needed to kind of feel like the leg is like hitting like part of a thing, or, you know, kind of sitting on this mountain in some interesting way while still connecting to the body in a very consistent manner. And what I'm doing right now is I'm like looking for those moments, right? And I'll clean it all up in a second on like how it's gonna look, you know, hopefully look okay. But for now, it's like I just need something that kind of looks like roughly similar or roughly accurate. It's the arrangement first, and then I'll design the technical details. Because you ever like design something and you're like completely off? It's kind of like when you write happy birthday onto a card or something, and then you run out of like space for like the birthday part. Is like happy in like big capital letters, and then like birthday all tiny and small. You start writing down the side. You know, it's because we didn't plan it out. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm planning things out, right? I'm just trying to make sure that everything looks okay first before I commit to it, right? Some of these things are a little long, kind of weird, right? Whatever. But we'll get there. Maybe some of these are shorter than others. Maybe they go inside the barrel or something. I don't know. There's like a piston in here or something. I don't know. Maybe they're going into the ground. That'd be kind of sick. All right, maybe I'll end that tail right there. I'll just have this here. Boom. Sick. Bro, you drew all this? My God. Look at that. Look at that. So the leg's probably gonna be hitting like this because it needs to kind of hit that, it needs to hit that rock on the side here. So if you actually like see through the thing, it's probably gonna be something closer to that. And I like that because now the silhouette pops, right? Now that there's a stronger silhouette design inside of this shape. Cool. Dope, dude. What time is it now? 9:40? Bro, we about to do this? We about to make this happen? I'll come back to that piece in a second. Let me finish off some of these other pieces. Let's grab that. There you go. I need this piece. Boom. How big was that? Something like that, right? So I need something. So what I'm doing is I'm measuring, right? I'm just making sure that like this piece is kind of roughly where I was at. And then when I bring it over here, right, you got to have something that's remotely similar, right? So it's got to be, it's probably a little bit smaller because the other one's a bit closer, but it's kind of, we're in the right ballpark with this, which is basically all that matters. Something like that. The leg can like exit out of that section right there. Sick. Let's go, dude. Make that gap just a little bit wider, as if it's like all connecting together. We'll flush that out a little bit later, but we're getting kind of close. Boom, 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 boom. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do some rivets, various dots and dings. Cool. Sick, dude. Let's roll. Let's make that, duplicate that over, and I do just move it so we can see that skeleton kind of moving. Because what I want to do, I like how these, it's like made of multiple plates, I guess 3 plates per row kind of thing. And like, I'm just taking the piece and trying to make it just feel like it's kind of overlapping. And now I want that center stripe to kind of be something like that center, the centerpiece to kind of feel like it's like a different color or, you know, whatever it is. But I want that to be a design pattern, which I'll figure out later. But we're just rolling right now, dude. You know what I mean? Let's see. Boom. Okay. Cool. And you know, I think something that's kind of interesting about this, right? It's pretty easy, right? This shape that I'm drawing, right, is pretty simple. It's actually not that difficult of a piece to, I guess, comprehend, right? It's not that crazy. It's just a trapezoid, right? But the reason I'm tracing it is I'm trying to maintain consistency, right? Because I don't want to have to eyeball that. And it's not that I can't, it's I just don't feel like it, right? I just don't feel like having to match that over and over again. So at the very least, I can kind of get something that's remotely close. And then from there, you know, I do the rest, right? I'll make sure that everything kind of sits together nicely, you know? But for now, it's like, at least we get kind of there, right? So. Finn Down says, would you do a few variations on your line drawings and show them to your art director, or would you go straight to paint? So generally speaking, I just go straight to paint. Really, the only reason I'm actually doing line drawings right now is for one, because I kind of felt like it. I've been in a line drawing mood lately. And then two, somebody asked, or somebody said yes, basically when I asked. But I would actually do this in paint, and the reason for that is because it gives us more information. You know what I mean? Like, there's more information to play with. I can see values, I can see color, I can see a lot of different things that, you know, generally kind of help inform the audience or whoever's looking at this painting, just, you know, 10, 20% more. It is a little bit slower, but the way I already work fast enough to kind of make up for that. So I don't really need to worry about it too much. You know what I'm saying? Like, it won't take me, you know, all day to do that painting. You know, it's generally speaking, I'll be efficient enough to finish the same amount of drawings or paintings that somebody else would normally be doing drawings in, just because the way I photo bash and, you know, kind of get something pretty close, right? So it's not that crazy of I guess of a process to kind of paint in. But what you do need to remember, though, like the important part about that question is, you know, what's going to get this in front of their eyes faster, right? Because I am faster at painting than I am drawing, because the amount of time that, you know, I've been going at this for probably like, I don't know, 2 hours, 15 minutes, or 2 hours right now, and then probably another 15 minutes. You know, there is you know, I probably could have finished the painting in that amount of time. You know what I mean? So it's not that that weird of a thing for me to be able to do that. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? If I do something like that. But yeah, it's just whatever gets the idea in front faster. And that's the important thing to understand about your work is, you know, whether it's 3D, because the questions are always, oh, should I use 3D for this? Or should I just draw it? Or should I do whatever, right? The way to answer that is, what's going to get the job done the quickest, right? What's going to be the most effective way to go about it? Because you can absolutely model everything, right? And most studios will actually give you the time to do it. But if they need it by tomorrow, they need it because there's some sort of emergency or whatever, right? It really does become important that you finish this faster than normal, right? And if modeling won't do that for you, then what will, right? And if it's a drawing, do that, right? Do whatever it is that is most efficient for the process, and you'll probably be, you know, and if it gets everything right, if you're doing it and you're, you know, it's like nothing's correct, you know, like it's not like, you know, if you did it fast, but you needed a turnaround for it, but you did it in line drawings, right? That's the wrong approach. But you know, as long as you're kind of hitting that need, you should be fine. You know what I'm saying? So cool. Do something like that. That's good enough. Get rid of some of that. Redraw that. Cool. Bam. Right? Efficiency. Kind of like get some grime and grunge in here. Maybe that's the tail. I was thinking like the centipedes I was looking at earlier, they had this like weird like 2 sharp prong thing on their tail. I was just kind of like, oh, what if I did something like that? It's kind of like a shrimp tail, to be honest. Cool, dude. That's how we roll, dog. Let's see now. What else we got? So these legs look a little bit weird, but we'll get there. We'll fix this. We'll make it look good. Okay, Earth said, do you think a lot of good looking art comes from repurposing? Oh my God. Sorry, my cat like freaked out. Do you think a lot of good looking art comes from repurposing art assets? I wouldn't say that. I definitely wouldn't say this is the good looking art. You know what I'm saying? Because this isn't about artistry. This is about efficiency, right? This is just trying to get a design out. This is about trying to get yourself to a point to where it's like, oh, I understand what's happening here, right? We're not trying to be like, oh, this is the best painting or drawing we've ever seen. It's I need a design by lunch, and this is how I'm going to do it. You know what I'm saying? So it is. I wouldn't say it's an artistry thing. Right? That's not how I would describe this. So just something to kind of keep in mind. There is illustration and then there's concept art. And you got to know that there's a difference between the two. And depending on what you need is what you should be doing, right? If you know, obviously illustration pieces, I might start this way, but you'll never see it look like this, you know, because it doesn't fully make sense. There's a lot of like gaps. There's a lot of like weird things that just don't quite line up, right? Like a lot of this stuff over here, right? Not the cleanest thing I've ever seen, but it's good enough for now, right? And that's what a concept art is. It is good enough for the time being. and then we can move into the next stage to make this look better, or whatever we need to do to it. You know what I'm saying? So concepting, especially like this, is not the best way to kind of look for like the best illustrations, because it just doesn't look good. Drawing from scratch will probably get you a better result, because this is very messy and very like not that special. All right, now we do the tedious work of lassoing this out, because I do want to kind of show you what this silhouette looks like, because I have been paying attention to it a little bit, and we can kind of make things look better in a second, but we'll get kind of close here. Boop. Let's see. Yo, I put some lotion on my face before the stream. Dude, I look greasy, bro. I went from like being too dry to being too greasy. It's not a good feeling. Especially with like these two lights on me right now. Like they're like big ass lights too. Dude. Does not help. Amateur mistakes. Boom. Cool, right? Looking pretty sick. Let's see. Let's get that leg in there like that. Just get some remotely close. Boom. Where'd I stop at? Where'd I start at? There it is. Oops, not that one. See, that's why we would lock the layers. So now that this sketch is kind of winding down, right? There's some things that I want to address. There's parts that need a lot of work, absolutely, right? But it is a rough sketch. It is something that it just kind of gets the ball rolling, right? Generally speaking, I'd probably do like 4 or 5 of these before I turn it in. So I'm not gonna do 4 or 5, but I will do a couple for next week, and then we'll kind of pick like which pieces I like from whatever, because the point of this, right, and something for everyone to understand about concepting is you're creating a menu, right? You're creating something where your art director, your lead, whoever gets options, because if you give them options, it makes things so much better, right? Because if you have one option, it's like, oh, okay, I don't like that. Cool. Well, let's explore again, right? But if you have a couple different sketches, just some selections to pick from, and they're like, oh, maybe something like 1, something like with a little bit of 2, or whatever it is, right? And you're kind of put in this better position. You know what I mean? Like now you're able to like, because our job is to mind read, right? Like we're given this task by whoever, and they're like, hey, I have an idea and I need you to pull it out of my head, because that's what they do, right? As the concept artist or the visitive artist, they have a vision and you need to put it on paper. And so whenever I'm doing this, I'm trying to give them as many options as possible. Because what if they don't like the gun legs? What if they're like, oh, that's a dumb idea. We don't like it, or it's too violent, or whatever, right? Cool. You know what I mean? I'll fix it. We'll change it. We'll do whatever we need to do to it. But you want to give them options where that's not the case, right? So maybe the next few, I'll kind of change that up, do whatever I need to do to it to make it look good, right? But for now, it's like, this is the first option. This is just one of many. Next week, you'll kind of see me kind of integrate this a little bit better into, I guess the overall, design sense that I'm looking for, right? Let's turn some of that off. Boom. So let's pretend that I'll just kind of go behind it. I'll fill in some gray, because that's what we do. Just so there's no gaps there. You can kind of see it as a whole. Sick. Cool. Boom. I don't like how this butt end, I probably need to make it a couple lengths longer. I think it was a couple lengths longer, but I don't really like how that turned out. So I'm going to mess with that probably a little bit later, but I think this is good enough to kind of understand what I'm doing here, right? And like, we're just looking for little moments, right? Like I have a design and it looks fun, looks whatever. I'll probably make this look better in the coming week. I mean, I will make it look better, but it's like, there's a couple key things I was doing. I figured out the leg. I figured out possibly how some of this head looks like, and then some of these top panels, and then some of that tail, right? And the next time I design, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to change the leg, I'm going to change the head, change the panels, or change the tail. One of those things each and every single time I design, right? Because maybe it's like, okay, this is the first one. Well, the main asset here really is the gun legs, or these kind of anti-air turrets, right? And so now change that to something else and see what happens, right? Move that complexity somewhere else. And then next, the drawing after that, right? Change this head. Maybe it's a different style. Maybe it's a different whatever. And then maybe change the tail. And then by the time we get all 4 or 3 or whatever, you're like, oh, I like the legs from 1. I like the head of 2. I like the tail of 3, whatever it is, right? And we can kind of piece together the best design, right? I am kind of liking the way these panels turned out. These look kind of cool. And like, it's thinking about some of the machinery that I can kind of draw inside of here would be pretty sick. But it's just something where, you know, this is the first drawing. This is not going to be the last by any means. And it just helps us get a better understanding. You know what I mean? So, let's see, any questions at all on this? Actually, I had one more comment I needed to read. Or it says, how do you approach this centipede in 3D? What level of details would you take it in 3D? Well, you know, it depends, right? In a production setting, especially like the kind of productions that I'm in, right? I don't work in a 3D heavy pipeline, right? You know, we use 3D, but we have modelers for that. So whenever I'm creating models, I really don't go past like a simple block out that much. You know what I mean? Like a basic shapes, you know, plus, you know, just some intricacy and details. I won't model every single piece out, because that's actually not my job. And it's wasting my time if I am doing that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not efficient for me to be doing that. And so, I will just kind of create the main shapes, and then I'll paint on top, draw on top, whatever it is, to kind of get me the rest of the way there. Right. So, hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, that's kind of how I would generally go. And I'll show you that in the coming weeks to see how that goes. But yeah, so cool. Nice. Let's see. Let's grayscale all of this, because that's distracting. Boom. Right, pretty cool. Let's see, where's that line at? There it is. All right. Maybe grayscale that. Call it a day. Sweet, man. So it's kind of cool. You know, I'll probably present this probably a little bit better next week, just so we kind of, you know, can go about this. But this is kind of how I would start, right? There's a lot of junk in there, right? But there's a lot of cool parts too. And whenever I'm drawing, just keep that in mind. It's just like the paintings, right? Just like we did here, right? It's just like a lot of like, none of this, half of this stuff doesn't need to make sense. It's just clean silhouettes. And we can paint inside of it, right? Just like I just threw some clouds in there, right? But as I'm refining, as I'm going through the weeks, we're kind of bringing more and more detail and attention to things. And, you know, we'll turn this into hopefully something cool, you know? So just things to think about, you know? Cool. I think from here, what I'd probably do if I were you, if you're going to approach this in a line drawing sense, I would probably draw out this cliff as well, right? Because even though the cliff has already been designed and it's already kind of there, I would just trace it real quick, you know, just get lines and just kind of make it so it doesn't look so like sterile, right? Because right now it's like, you know, it looks the way it does and it's not that great. So I would probably just hold up, shift and click shift that. Yeah, there you go. F, and then make that what? Black. Okay, cool. Control shift this, control shift that. F. That. There's that. Boom. And you know, just start drawing inside of those shapes to make them just a little bit more interesting and cooler, right? But yeah, that's how I would approach that. Just so the line quality matches and the whole presentation looks okay. Right now, it's not that good, right? I'll do some updates on how to make that look better in a second, or not in a second, in the next round, and you'll see how I would present all this to show like my art director or whatever. But for now, it's good enough to kind of be like, this is kind of what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So cool. Hopefully that makes sense. You know, if there's any questions, hook it up. But we are running out. Apply, Shift U. There you go. Grayscale that. That makes it better, right? That makes it a lot better. Boom. And we'll do something like this. And like whenever I present things, what I like to do, something that I find very helpful, is like try to not think of your images as just like line drawings, or just like it's just line, or it's just paint. You know, the way I like to think about it is it's just design, right? It doesn't really matter what part it's in or what's going on. All that matters is the image itself explains whatever you need it to explain, right? So try not to like just stick, because right now it's like it's line drawings mixed with some values, stuff like that, and there's like some silhouette stuff. As long as we're displaying the design in an efficient way, right, we can make some of that look better later, right? So all right. Artisan said, I have a question. It might sound stupid. Can I? No, dude, ask whatever you want, you know. Like I've said this before, I think, but it's, you know, I don't think there's any dumb questions, right? If it's a question that you're stuck on, you know, we want to answer that as soon as possible. That way we can get you to, you know, to the better questions, essentially, right? So if you have any questions, even like dumb sounding or not, you know, just ask. And then we'll hopefully we'll try to get you in a better, I guess, a better spot in your learning journey. So. Michi asked, what difference do you find between personal art and art created for a portfolio? I don't think there should be a difference. I mean, obviously there is, right? I'm just preface that there is a difference that for sure happens. But I think the thing is, you should probably be doing your portfolio work like you would your professional work. You know what I mean? Like, because what you do in your professional work, right? You probably do like stuff like this, or things like, you know, very concept-y kind of things, right? It's like things that you think people want to see, right? Because you want to get hired. But in your personal work, you're like, dude, I'll do whatever, man. You know, I'm just drawing whatever I want to draw because I want to draw it. And generally speaking, you have a lot of fun doing it. And you can see it in a lot of people's drawings that, you know, it looks pretty good when they do stuff like that, right? And so whenever you're approaching your portfolio, you should probably approach it the same way, right? Do something that you find fun. Do something that you want to do, because ultimately whatever's in your portfolio is what you're going to do when you're hired, right? Because that's why they hired you. They saw your portfolio and they liked it, right? So I would highly recommend whatever you're doing in your personal work, try to do that for your portfolio. Obviously that's, you know, there's a level of production needs that you want to show, right? But at the very least, you can, you know, at least have fun doing it, and it shows. It really does, you know. So. All right. Artisan said, it's related to your YouTube thumbnail. How did you get the finished image in the YouTube thumbnail if you're still working on it? Oh, I guess I'll just break down that. I'm a time traveler. No, I'm just kidding. But this image is done last week, or I was done earlier this week. So the YouTube thumbnail is what I did last week, right? Because if I'm still working on it. So basically next week's thumbnail would be the complete version of whatever happens here. You know what I'm saying? So it's not a I guess a completely like weird thing. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I hope that helps. Sean said, would you ever add a VFX flow into the presentation to your director? Would that be doing too much? For example, these could be shooting some birds or bats out of the air. You can. I probably wouldn't, right? The main reason is because Well, okay. Let's back this up. If I'm showing something to a director, like something that's like someone that high up, generally speaking, I'm probably in a presentation mode. So maybe, quite possibly, I've animated some things. Like I had to design a ground plane, and it like flipped like a bunch of tiles, right? And I had to animate that because you want to show the animation because they need to figure that out, right? And so yes, I did show that in that process. But that was like a whole presentation thing, and me interacting with my art director or my production designer. I didn't show any of that. I just kind of showed them the general kind of look and feel, like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I just kind of showed them images like this, and then we kind of approved it and walked through the steps and got it into a presentable state for showrunners or whoever. So whenever you're showing things to a director, that's a whole different process because that's a higher level review than between you and your art director. You and your art director tends to be pretty quick things, sketches, thumbnails, whatever. And then when you show it in a bigger meeting with like people outside of the art department, generally speaking, it tends to be a lot more complex, higher level, stuff like that. Like a lot of junior work doesn't even get shown at those meetings just because it's not. It's not the quality that they're looking for, or it's not really necessary. You know what I'm saying? So, just things to kind of think about. But yeah, that's what I would be doing. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm gonna kind of make this feel integrated a little bit. There you go. And like, you see how I'm like when I'm presenting this, like I'm not just like it's a line drawing on a thing. Like I'm trying to set it up to where it looks at the very least okay. It's not like the best thing I've ever seen. But at the very least, it kind of gets the job done, and it helps us understand context, right? Because context is key. You need to know what this thing is going to be doing and how it's going to do it in the setting, right? Because that's how we sell it. If they can't see it for themselves, your ideas will never get greenlit, or your ideas will never really be anything, I guess, that impressive. Just because if the person that's, why is this not working? If the person that is supposed to be, I guess, doing your, like looking at your thing, right? If they can't see it and see how it works, then it doesn't do anything. They won't be able to comprehend this design. You know what I'm saying? So that's why right there. Cool. Sweet. Artist Saint said, I thought it was a similar image due to the shapes. It is. It's the same thing, right? It's we just took this design, pulled it out, and then started drawing on top, right? It shouldn't feel like radically different. It should be remotely the same. If upon closer inspection, there's a lot more detail and things involved, but it's definitely not the same. You know what I'm saying? So cool. Sweet. I think that's it, guys. So with that in mind, for this week's assignment, like if you are following along, what I would recommend is start diving into your design, right? Whatever it is. Like in my case, I'm looking at my main image here, right? Let me pull out some red real quick. I have the whole thing, and I'm gonna design out the main parts of this scene. In this case, the biggest thing right now is this centipede creature thing. After that, there's this temple up here. You can probably see that if I go closer. Right, there's a temple up there. I'll probably design that out, right? And after that, probably maybe do some call outs on the rocks and stuff. I'd probably do the vehicle that we kind of approached in this story. There's a vehicle that you kind of drive around in. So I'd probably design that first before I get to some of the easier foliage stuff. But find the most important parts of your scene and start kind of breaking it down. Like look at it and be like, what do I need to see? Because this image sells the product. It's like, when we see this, it's like, oh, cool, let's put millions of dollars into this project, right? But then now we need to see what the design actually is, right? We need to start informing the audience on what things should be. And if we can get that good, then we'll probably be in a pretty good spot, right? So there's the inspiration, and here's the information. I'm gonna do probably 3 or 4 more. to kind of get this looking okay at the very least. There's a lot of like bad design choices in here that I'm like not too happy with, but you know, that's part of design, right? Some of it is pretty cool, but some of it definitely needs some work. So you know, with that in mind, if you guys have any questions, you know, just hit me up in the Discord. If you are, you know, watching this for the first time, you know, welcome. Thank you for watching. And, you know, I have a Discord that you can be a part of for this live stream in particular, right? Just go to my either Instagram profile or go to the about me section in the YouTube, and you'll be able to kind of click on a link there and it'll take you to the Discord. You know, definitely say hi, be a part of the group. But you'll be able to participate in the live stream. You heard some people kind of talk during this. That's where they're doing it. And then yeah, so definitely if you're gonna join, you know, I'd love to have you. If you're doing this on your own and you're just kind of like, you know, you kind of don't want to show anybody this and that, you know, definitely feel free to just send it to me. I won't put it online if you don't want me to, right? Obviously the people that are submitting in the live stream, that's, you know, obviously they're aware that this is going to be a on the internet type of thing. But if you're, you know, a little more shy about it, just personally DM me. Some people are doing that, so don't be afraid to. I definitely just, you know, it's about participation at the end of the day. I'll try to give you feedback whenever I can. But yeah, so with that in mind, guys, you know, that's all I got for you. So thanks for watching, and yeah, I'll see you guys next week. So peace out.